Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
sweet.
Well, Alex, you're on the podcast on the couch with Hooley.
Long last.
Yeah.
Long last, yep.
You were saying here you were against the traffic with the Central Coast because you're a coasty boy, aren't you?
Yes, I've grown up on the Central Coast my whole life. I'm a bit sheltered like that. I get to the end of the freeway and start getting mad with all the traffic. Start getting the temper out. But yeah, no, I've lived. I live at a place called Rocky Point, so it's like on the Tuggerah Lakes on the Central Coast. So
yeah,
I've lived pretty much there or within 10 minutes of there my whole life. So yeah, coming it's an interesting drive down, but yeah, like I said, most of the commuters are coming from Sydney back up to the coast or Newcastle in the afternoon. So coming here wasn't too bad. Can't complain.
Do you work as a chippy though up the Central Coast, or do you do some of your work down here?
Yeah,
like not Northern Beaches, because it's the first time you've actually been here too.
Yeah, no. So that's an interesting one because as far as our family business is sponsoring the race cars, everybody's always asked me what we do. So I am a carpenter by trade, studying to be a licensed builder, but we have what's called manufactured home villages. Mm-hmm. So for lack of a better word, it's basically retirement villages, but with a different set of rules. So different set of legislation. So yeah, we own 3 retirement villages. So we own the villages, build the houses and all that type of stuff. So yeah, I basically build houses for a living, relocatable houses. Yeah. We're actually just starting a new development this year of a new village. So hopefully
is it all up the coast?
Yeah. So we one in Wyong, one in Tuggerah, and one in a suburb called Wadalba. So it's all within sort of 15 minutes of each other. So super fortunate. I don't do much travelling at all. I did my apprenticeship sort of down in Sydney with a commercial builder, so did do my fair share of commuting when I was younger, but no more. So
did you finish school, or did you leave school? Because it's rare. Because I was talking to, I think Brooks' dad was mentioning that not a lot of people. We were talking to someone that there's less trades now because a lot of people are moving on to, I don't know, because social media's kicking off. Do you know what I mean? That some people don't want to finish their apprenticeships. Do you know what I mean? Were you at that end of that part where it wasn't, where there was still a lot of people coming in through the trades, or was it thinning out still then?
I was probably just at the tail end of where there was like a sufficient supply of apprentices and new tradesmen. So I'm 30 this year. Yeah. So I was like a year younger than everybody at school. So I did year 12 and then went and got an apprenticeship, and I was still only 17. Yeah. So yeah, when I was doing it, there wasn't sort of the trade shortage there is now. So yeah, it's been a long ride. So 13 years in the game now. So learned a thing or two. So we're sort of doing a bit more project managing now, sort of in the office a bit more. So somebody's got to help the old man out. Yeah,
a bit with the racing side. We'll go back and forth because this is what this podcast is about.
Yeah, I can talk shit with the best of them.
Was it your brother that was the first one that got into karting first, or was it your who?
No, cousin.
Cousin.
Right, so yeah, long story. Yeah, plenty of them. So as far as our family goes, and a lot of people at racetracks have no idea who's my father or who's my uncle. Yeah. So as far as everything in our family goes, my father and my uncle own the businesses. My uncle has 3 children of his own. Yeah. Michael, who's the eldest, Peter and Rebecca. Then my father has myself and my younger brother, Jamie. So, my cousin Michael started racing when he's 40, thereabouts. So
started racing karts when he was 40?
No, he's 40 now. He started racing karts when he was a kid too. So, our family's been racing something for a fucking long time. Yeah. So you probably would have known my cousin Peter. He's the one who was sort of couple of years older than me, racing around about the same time as me. So
is this Peter O'Neill who races with you?
No.
Okay.
Peter O'Neill, just become a friend of the family over the years. Just a bit of an associate. He's a private certifier for building anyway, so I've sort of met him through that. So he rents one of our sprint cars out. Yeah. So he's a good dude. Get along with him great. So glad he's a part of it all. But
we'll get back to him later.
Yeah, we'll get back to him later. But yeah, no. So my cousin Peter started racing. And from there, like the whole family's been into it. My old man and my uncle raced leader sprint cars, or what's now called lightning sprints. Yeah. Back when they were young, got into sprint cars as well, but sort of the budget wasn't there, so it was a really piece of shit car.
But your family, like, because we were growing up together in the same karting space, which is, by the way, dramatically changed since we've left. Yeah. Like there's
absolutely.
Just so much. Because I've had many people from karting as well come on here now. Yeah. The politics has changed. The clubs have changed. It's like, You got to get like, I don't know what it's like, those things, that GIF, hopefully we can do this on the YouTube where it comes up and you see all that, calculating what's going on, which tyres they use. Tommy Williamson explaining, and Brooke was like, how do we even get a kid into karts these? But back to us, it was a lot more simpler. You and your family used to basically travel everywhere. Like it was basically like a big weekend out when you
I used to, like, some of my best childhood memories were away racing. So we did the Premier State Cup, the Super 8 series and all that when I was younger. So there was obviously me and my immediate family, my mum and my dad. So all my cousins, my uncle and auntie were racing as well. And my uncle's best mate is Derek Ferry. So the whole Ferry family, which you'd know as well, raced karts with us as well. So we were like a big traveling circus, mate. Everywhere we went, there was like 25 of us at the same motel. So we used to have so much fun, man. So much fun. So I reminisce on those days all the time. Had a lot of fun.
The ferry boys, they're still helping. They've still got their own kart.
Yeah, still got a finger in the pie somewhere. I don't keep up with it as much as I used to. So I think they still race from time to time. Dan did have the shop at Newcastle for a little while there, Trackside Motorsport.
Yeah. Was that actually located at the track?
Yeah, there was a shed at the track. Yeah, they had the shop there. So I think he's gone on to different things now. They pretty much own their own pool servicing shop. Yeah. I think it's called Beyond Blue Pool Servicing, so they all work there now. Yeah. So funny how things change.
Yeah. So I'm actually interested in, before we get into the sprint car stuff, which I'm pretty sure a lot of the listeners are keen for, but you've got to get to know the person before the racing. Yeah. So with the trade stuff, you left school at the age of
17.
17? Yeah. And you didn't finish school?
No, I did. Got my HSC, so I was a year younger than everybody in my year. So I was one of those kids that started when they were 4. Yeah. Barely got my license by the end of year 12. So
what made you decide to finish the HSC and then go still into trades? Because a lot of people just go HSC and then hope for a job at, I don't know, JB Hi-Fi or Apple.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Or if you're going to be a trader, usually they left in year 10.
Yeah.
I guess I just sort of, I was pretty indecisive as a kid, so I had the benefit of being younger than everybody. So I didn't feel like if I went to year 12 as a normal kid and was 18 when I left school, I was like, well, look, I'm not sure I want to leave in year 10 and not get my HSC just in case, things change and I'm older. But also if I do get my HSC and still go be a tradesman, I'm only 17. Yeah. Like most kids when they leave in year 10 are 16. I had the ability to sort of go to year 12 and still be young when I left, or still be a year younger than everybody else when I left. So had my license to go get work and all that. So didn't want to be sort of 16 trying to get an apprenticeship and have to hitch a ride with the boss everywhere. So that's just sort of how that went. It's just a choice I made.
Did you prefer, when back to the karting stuff, so were you still doing your trades at that point towards the end of your karting, or were you at sprint car level at that time?
No, so I funny thing about the karts and all the, it was a simpler time back in our day. But if there's one thing I probably think karting has done a lot better now than what it did when we were racing, and I'll get to the reason why, is that I think the engines are a lot closer.
When we were racing?
No, now. As far as parity is concerned, I don't know. That's just what I've been told because I've been so far removed from that circle for a long time. Yeah. But my old man hated go-karts back in the day.
Really?
Knew that was kind of the only option. Like, I raced motorbikes from 4 through to 7. So I was racing something from 4. Yeah. He basically had me in that because that was the only thing you could do at 4. You can't race a kart at 4. Yeah. So once I turned 7, we got into karts. But he hated... I raced back in the days of sort of with Warren Wyatt, James Kovacic and Chaz Mostert and all that sort of in our class. And
it was really competitive in the juniors ranks when you were racing.
Super competitive, and like the Tanty boys and stuff like that.
I was going to bring them up later. But
there's a connection there too. Yeah. But basically, and with all due respect to those guys, because they're all excellent drivers, don't get me wrong, but there was some motors, man, that it didn't matter what you did. You weren't getting anywhere near Kart A or Kart B, and my old man used to just sit there going, I hate this. Yeah. It's just like J motors especially. Like, there's a $4,000 water pump, because it's a second a lap quicker than everybody else. So
I remember sitting at Newcastle, because that's where your local club was. I was sitting with Tanty at the time. And it's true, because you look at the motors back then, which is, I guess it's why it's more fairer now. And because you were such a local around that track, like Tara and I were like, surely he's going to win this heat. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you could just tell that whatever they've done with that motor, there would always be that one Yamaha or that certain engine that would be the peak of the class.
Yeah, it's just a breakaway.
So was this all, just to get for anyone else listening as well, for myself, so was this legal and that was allowed, so you could do all this, just depending on how much money you had? I'm just asking in case there was rules.
That's up
argument, I guess, up for debate. There was motors that were 100% legal that were just strangely fast compared to everything else. But I'm sure there was a fair share of cheating without being the sourpuss. But will we ever know for sure? Probably not.
Because Tommy Williamson came on and he was basically saying, which you would agree with this, say Dave Serra would sell a motor. And then people would keep saying, I've got the Dave Serra motor, but there would always be that thing. Remember back in our day that like, I've got the Christian Limbon motor, or I've got the, do you know what I mean?
But 10 guys have got that motor and he's just sold us. Yeah, sprint cars still do that a little bit too. We bought a Tony Stewart racing motor a couple of years ago and it won the Knoxville Nationals in 2017, the last Chev that they ever had to win the Knoxville Nationals. But I've spoken to 3 other people who apparently have the same motor. So,
so it goes around in sprint cars too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, if they have 4, like those outlaw teams, they have 5 identical motors as far as the spec. Yeah. They'll just sell that same motor. Yeah, that's the one that won such and such a race. Sell it 5 times over to the same dickhead or different dickheads. And that's, you know.
Is it cheaper to buy, though? Now the fans are probably going to love this. Is it cheaper to buy like a KRE engine in Australia, or is it better to search for an engine overseas? In your opinion?
That's hard to say. I actually, I was thinking about that on the way down here. Is like I actually spoke to our engine builder, Adrian Ma, about a new engine we've got coming.
He's a good peddler too. In his own right.
Mate, he was a weapon, absolute weapon, and a weapon of an engine builder too. Like, so basically, I know what we're paying for a motor out of the States that he's assembling. Yep. And I was only thinking that I haven't checked what KRE's prices are for a new motor these days, but I know, and my old man's probably going to kill me for saying it, but I know that a new motor for us at the moment, and we're getting a rider out of America, which is what Kyle Larson uses. It's what Jamie Veal's using in Australia. So they tend to be the Duck's Guts motor at the moment.
So a rider's, so there's different like engine, are they engine builder names?
Builders, yes.
Yeah, so a rider's a good motor that the front guys would use.
So the hard thing is like KRE can build your motor with all the same gear that Ryder will build your motor, same head, same crank, same,
So an Australian's building this motor and the
and the difference might be in camshaft or injection, stuff like that. So basically KRE can build you a 900 horsepower motor. Ryder claims 920 to 930. Yeah. We have a one-way motor that should be around about the 932, which is the one that Adrian Ma's assembling. So basically everybody can get the same parts from All Pro heads or Sonny Bryant cranks or Donovan blocks and stuff like that. So everybody can get the same parts and build it, but there's little tweaks here and there that the different engine builders have or do, and that's where the difference is.
There's also them, like now that you're seeing with the Rizal arriving and all that, how they got Toyota, Chevy and Ford.
Yeah, that's starting to get interesting.
Is that the differences as well in the motors, or do you have to make a certain motor? I mean, you obviously haven't driven all those type of...
No, haven't been fortunate enough.
Yeah, you're struggling to get a spare motor yourself.
Oh, mate, we'll get to that too. That's another shit fight in itself. So. So differences are basically in the engine builders and how they assemble a motor and how they configure a motor, but the parts are very similar throughout the whole field. Basically, so I know the rider's costing between $100,000 to $110,000 depending on how you option it, brand new. Yep. And the One-Way Technologies motor by Adrian Ma is a similar thing. I'm not sure what KRE is at the moment. Yep. Couldn't say for sure, but is it better to be with KRE or Ryder or whoever? That's just up to personal preference, because as far as sprint cars go, 900 horsepower is probably too much horsepower for quarter-mile tracks that we run on. Yeah, it's more about how they accelerate, how they throttle up is the terminology we use. Yeah, because obviously a sprint car is driven with wheel spin basically 24/7.
But with Eastern Creek, because we were speaking about outside, Parramatta's a huge track and Warrnambool's a huge track. I guess Eastern Creek, because it's just a short track, there's more wheel spin, is that? And that's why you're driving on like an angle, like you see in the photos?
It's hard. So I think as far as length around the pole line, it's the same size as Parramatta, but it's a very different shape. So Parramatta was probably more longer straightaways but tighter corners. Yep. Whereas Eastern Creek's almost a circle. There's not much straightaway but really wide corners. Yep. So we're actually punishing motors harder at Eastern Creek than we would have been at Parramatta, even though Parramatta had longer straights, but Eastern Creek, you tend to be on the wheel spin constantly, basically constantly in the circle, turning. And I think our the very minimal laps I've done there, our rev range, like our low rev on our best lap was like 7,200 RPM. Yeah. And our high rev was 92. Yeah. So we're sitting within it, just constantly up in the rev range, never really coming off it.
What I found when Brooke was interesting there was because it was such a new track at Eastern Creek, each one was going faster at the start, so you would get like the lap record. And then the next bloke would go, and you're like,
I don't think I ever did, but the lap record was constantly tumbling. Yeah,
you'd be like, get you like 33 seconds of fame. You'd be like, yes. Oh, fuck.
And then out comes Jamie Veal. No, it's it'd be interesting to see how Eastern Creek develops as a track, because I think, without shitting on anybody, because obviously they're working hard at it, but there's plenty of room for improvement there. Yeah, to be brutally honest,
I think that track is building character. Obviously,
there's potential there. Yeah, don't get me wrong, but I actually took a few photos at the last meeting when I was walking away, and people were talking about how the track had widened up nicely. Yeah, I was walking up the main straight and took a picture back towards turn 1 and 2. Where the cushion was, where the colour change in the track was, we still had 3 or 4 meters of track width that is usable there. Yeah. And we're yet to use it yet.
Wow.
Like that place, if you get obviously we run down the fence on straightaways and stuff, but as far as actually running the wall in the corners, like if that track can ever get shaped properly, so in the sense that you can get near the wall, that track will be so different and so much faster. You won't know it. It'll be a completely different track. So
that's what we saw last time when we were there, because remember we were seeing like the Dumsies going up into that bit, but it was all just like torn up. So they were trying to miss it and then come back in.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said to Dan, you're missing so much track. That's what we were looking at.
By the way, Brooke was pointing this out to me. So there you go. That's how much she's loving the
More
sport.
More of a racer than you.
I'm like, what? We're missing this, Dan. What is this?
So exactly like you saw, we want that to push further and further up to the wall. Like if you do ever go to, have you ever been to Warrnambool?
No, we're planning to go next year.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm dying for.
When Warrnambool's right, awesome.
Do you reckon we could get a podcast there going? Like if we actually had the funding to, like, the Fan Appreciation Day? Is that a good idea?
Mate, Warrnambool's just a different breed of people in a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way. I love you, Warrnambool. But they just live and breathe sprint cars, man. I've never seen crowds like it for speedway in Australia. Like I think they average about probably between 8,000 and 11,000 people there on the final night. Like
wow.
Like as far as calling it SunGold Stadium, it is like a stadium. It's like a football atmosphere. They're vocal, they cheer, they boo.
Wow.
It's just awesome, like to actually hear an enthusiastic crowd like that, and to have it every year upon year is awesome. And the Fan Appreciation Day, it's the same. Like we went last year, and on the Fan Appreciation Day, we were just servicing our car. We'd raced the night before.
Yeah. You didn't have any merchandise or anything?
No merchandise. Okay. But we were parked next to the Dumsneys.
So you're feeling it, but you're not being able to sell anything.
I wasn't selling shit. But, no, so obviously Max grew up close to Warrnambool, so he's a hometown hero there. And as far as I'm concerned, the king of Australian sprint cars.
Oh, 100%,
So, when you park up next to the Dumsneys on the Fan Appreciation Day, man, there's hundreds of people around them all day long. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you how many people there, all together, but it'd be thousands, I'd say.
Yeah.
Podcast on the Fan Appreciation Day would be sick. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, sweet.
Put that on the bucket list. Yeah. Put Warrnambool on the bucket list, though. Like that track when it's right is awesome. When you can run a foot off the wall the whole way around the track, that is awesome. I would hope Eastern Creek gets to a stage like that, because I think Parramatta was about 18 metres wide from what I've heard in the corners. Eastern Creek's 22 metres wide. Yeah, there's another 4 meters of racing track to be used there.
Yeah.
But right now, in my opinion, the problem is that you'll watch the banking go up the track about 2/3 of the track on a consistent bank.
Yeah.
And then it flattens off for the last 3 or 4 meters, which is the 3 or 4 meters we don't use, because it's nothing like having the track holding you there and then getting over this lump in the track, and it's like somebody throwing an anchor to the fence and trying to drag you in there.
Is that what's causing for the people, the new fans coming in, that weird awkward tumble when you have an accident? Do you know what I mean? When they go, ooh, and they just then they bang their flip. Do you know what I mean? Is that why? Because it's going up to that weird spot.
No, I wouldn't say that. It's more like if you ever see a car go screaming in to turn 1 and 2.
Yep.
And all of a sudden it looks like he just belts the fence out of nowhere. Like he completely misjudged the corner. You think, oh, that was silly. He just drove straight at the fence. Yeah, that's probably not the driver's fault much at all. That's as far as banking holding you, it's how do I explain it? It's like being in a cart and then somebody just throwing a bucket of water on the corner as you're halfway through it.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, being in the dry and just somebody coming with a 20-litre bucket of water and throwing it on the track
Wow.
halfway through the corner. So it's a really unnerving feeling to be stuck in a corner
Yeah.
and then have the car just go free and want to spin out and slide up into the fence. It's a really unnerving feeling.
Yeah.
And I think you can see it in the way everybody's racing there because, like I said, we're not near the fence.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for the track to get that way because I think it will eventually.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet.
Before Parramatta shut, I was reading an old Speed Cafe article. I think did you win the night? Oh, it was
Haven't won anything in a sprint car. Won lots of wingless sprint car.
Okay.
So that was my transition.
I was going to ask wingless stuff, but I was thinking you had like a highlight that made Speed Cafe a few years ago. Did you poll it?
2018 it was.
2018?
Yeah, quite possibly. I think we just went on, as far as my results went, as a bit of a tear. We sort of had a lot of top 5 finishes. I think we had 2 podiums in the space of probably a month or two. So I think it was kind of,
there was one
probably as far as the speedway community was concerned, a bit of a breakout season.
Yeah.
Still never managed to win a fucking race there, but
you did so really
close.
well.
There's one video that I love. It's I think it's the George Tatnall Memorial. There was me, Sammy, and Robbie Farr went at it for sort of the last 7 or 8 laps.
Yeah.
I lost count of how many times we all changed the lead, but it was probably one of the funnest races I've ever had in a sprint car, even though I ended up 3rd out of that sort of battle. I think we hit the lead like 5 laps to go. I thought, this might be it.
Yeah.
So I thought, just calm down, don't do anything stupid. And I think there was like a foot-high cushion at Parramatta and just launched off the track. Actually, like, come on, boys, come back through, and then try it again. Yeah. But yeah, plenty of good times at Parramatta. I miss that place. I think everybody does as far as speedway fans are concerned because I think that was the best track in the country by far.
It also had this, I mean, obviously it was shutting down, but it also had that nostalgic feeling, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially in Sydney.
Yeah, yeah.
Because in Melbourne, even in Queensland, I guess Queensland has Archerfield. Do they have Archerfield? Is that their closest one? Or is it Toowoomba?
Archerfield's closest to Brisbane.
Yeah.
And Toowoomba is Toowoomba.
Yeah.
Archerfield's been around a long time too, so it probably matches Parramatta for nostalgia.
Yeah.
But yeah, Parramatta's cool. You're starting to watch a city be built around a speedway. Like
that's what I was basically getting to. Yeah.
It's like Todd Road in the karts. Like when you go up the top of the Todd Road track in Melbourne and see all the skyscrapers in the background, like it's it's a bit surreal, but probably inevitable. You know, as sad as it is to say, business is business, and I'm sure that land will be much more valuable as commercial property one day once the metro's built and all that. So, yeah, probably inevitable. Thankful that we've got somewhere else to race.
Yeah.
Do I think it's as good as Parramatta? Not yet.
Yeah.
Can it get as good as Parramatta? Yeah, absolutely. So time will tell.
Yeah. How did you? I've got to ask about a specific race about Parramatta where they had the 50. I think it was a 50 lapper, the one that the endurance race that they had one night.
Yep.
I've got to ask about how you controlled your tyre wear through those races, because I remember going years ago to you guys in the pits and basically your tyres would be blistered and like basically all the rubber would be on the track.
Yeah.
And you'd basically come with a bald tyre.
Yeah.
How do you manage all that horsepower without basically popping the tyre? Do you know what I mean? Because those races you'd have to stop for fuel, but you'd leave the tyres on. Or
yes, you're not allowed to change a tyre. Or you could, but it was rear of field.
Yeah.
And they went like rear of field even for the cars that were lapped, like you went a lap down type of thing.
Yeah.
It was broken into 2 25-lap races. So basically with sprint cars, we have, depending on the brand of tyre you go with, so Hoosier, you have a WAV compound, or you can go harder. Not many people do. We run American Racer tyres, so you've got a slightly softer compound, which is called an SD38.
Yep.
Which we usually run for qualifying and heat races and stuff. Probably even a B main if you were to run it.
Yep.
As you come to feature races, you go to a slightly harder compound, which would be an MC2, it's called. And that's how we usually got through feature races. Do you have to conserve? Yeah, absolutely. You have to drive it conservatively. But with sprint cars, and again, a bit unique about sprint cars, we're so overpowered for what the tyres can do at the end of the night. So, and I think KRE has done a video on this. He goes, sprint car guys are pains in the ass, basically, because we want 950 horsepower at the start of the night, but I want 750 at the end of the night. So you can do things to a motor to kill some horsepower.
Yeah.
So
do you guys like yourself play with motors for like a longer race? Obviously it's not happening at Eastern Creek because they're still doing 30 lap.
Yeah, or even in a 30 lap feature, if it goes really slick, like if you were qualifying at a an 11-second lap, and all of a sudden the feature race times are going to be like 14, 15-second laps, people will kill horsepower out of a motor anyway just to make it more drivable.
And you'll do that in the pits?
Yes. So you'll see, the slang terminology is the ram tubes. So out of your injection, the big trumpets.
Yep.
So we have like 2.9 inch injection per cylinder. So you got 2.9 inch trumpets. Mm-hmm. They have inserts that reduce that intake to, I think, 2.5 inches even, or 2 and whatever.
Yep.
So you can take a shitload of air out of the motor. You can put a smaller set of exhausts or mufflers on it, extractors on it to kill a bit of air coming out of the motor. So, and you can play a bit with fuel. You can sort of flood the motor with fuel. There is, don't hold me to it because we don't usually mess with it that much. But I think you can sort of get from about 900 and take about 70 or 80 horsepower out of a motor pretty easily if you needed to. So as far as conserving for a 50-lap race goes, you'd probably kill horsepower out of a motor.
Does that stuff you up at the start of the race though for that race, or not really? Or does it just play? Does it kick in towards the end of that race? Do you know what I mean?
I guess it depends on how the driver likes to drive a car.
Yeah.
So me personally, I don't usually like killing horsepower, especially when we're talking days at Parramatta when you had a foot-high cushion, because you needed to have wheel spin all the time. That's the only way to get around a cushion without trying to flip the car over. So every time we took horsepower out of my motor, I hated it because I couldn't light the tyre up very easily and get out of these ruts or sticky situations.
Would that be your crew chief's choice or your choice as the driver?
Depends on what team. So for me, we're probably a bit unique in the sense that there's myself, my father, and my uncle.
Yep.
So we basically run it as all opinions are equal in that regard.
Okay. So your dad or your uncle don't override you. Do they actually leave a driver choice?
So we go sort of 2v1.
Yep.
So we have 3 opinions. If there's 2 people that are of the same opinion, then we do that. Or if 3 people are of the same opinion, even better. But usually, and it kind of works well. If you've got 3 heads, there's always going to be 2v1 or all in for the same opinion. So it's kind of,
Because when you hit your peak, like obviously you've had a bit of bad luck now with not having a motor and racing less, and there's been a few rainouts in Eastern Creek. But when you hit that peak, like as you said, your golden, we'll call it your golden era in 2017-18, right? When you're on fire.
Don't flatter me.
When you're on fire, you have this smooth, like you kind of, in my opinion, from watching you for years, Warren Ferguson and those guys and Sammy Walsh, you have the Parramatta posse have that certain style of driving, especially around that track. But are you still trying to find your groove to be that quick as opposed to move that style of driving to Eastern Creek? Do
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Oh, man, I feel like a fish out of water there.
Yeah.
Which is only making the fact that I'm sitting out now harder and harder. So, obviously, the last time, so pre-COVID or just as COVID was starting, my daughter was born on the last night that they raced at Parramatta.
Wow.
So I was in the hospital watching the racing with baby girl in my arm. Then the track shut, never to be opened. So I didn't even get to do the last race meeting there. Obviously,
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, so obviously we had 2 years of rubbish and bullshit that we never got to race with. Mind you, whilst Queensland basically kept racing for the most part, like Archerfield kept racing, Toowoomba kept racing. So a lot of the Queensland guys have had laps and laps on laps over the past 3 years that none of us got. So yeah, we had the 2 years of COVID, no Parramatta, waiting for Eastern Creek to get built, which obviously ran over on time.
Yep.
And then it seemed like all it's done is rain there. So I feel like I was only talking to my mate Brendan Scorgie about this the other day.
Yep.
I reckon I've lucky to have done a couple of 100 laps in 3 years.
Yeah, right.
And he said I've done 400 this season.
And where's he, Queensland?
No, Brendan lives Yass.
Okay.
Yeah,
so, right. I thought he was a Queenslander for some
reason. No, he lives in Yass, sort of down Jackson Delamont way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's killing me watching people get hundreds of laps just in a season.
Yeah.
And I feel like since my daughter's been born, I haven't done a full season of racing at all.
Yeah.
So
do you get the same satisfaction though being a father to race in a car? Like, do you still get that wholesome feeling? Do you know what I mean?
100%. I had a very, very intelligent guy, a crew chief of mine in the past, Bill Roberts, say to me once, he go, when my wife was pregnant, he said, mate, once this happens, this racing shit means nothing.
Yeah.
And I won't go as far as saying it means nothing. It means nothing in comparison to your children. Like there's no better feeling when your kid runs up to you, gives you a cuddle or something like that. Or when you come home, my kids sit there bashing on the door like, Dad's home. Like, it's the best feeling in the world. But, so racing's still everything to me.
Yeah.
Until you compare it to your children, then it's nothing. Yeah. But so that maybe changes people. But But yeah, I still think I'd like to be competitive. I'd like to race a sprint car as long as I can. Like I watched Max Dumpney still be competitive at like 45 years old, with all due respect. But I was like, this is awesome. Like I want to be doing that. So.
Have you always been a competitive kid though, growing up? Like, did you do any other sports and stuff at school?
Yeah, way too competitive for my own good.
Yeah, right. It's
like,
a bit like this woman over here.
We'll get along, but I'm an absolute bitch when I lose.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Man, I like, speaking of Scorgy, I went, so my best mate, Daniel Field and Tara Tanty, people you know of.
Yeah.
We went to the snow. My wife and I went to the snow with them, and Brendan and his girlfriend Laura, or fiance Laura. And yeah, they're all much better snowboarders than me, Daniel and Brendan.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to keep up. By the end of the day, I'm like, fuck this, take me snowboard off, marching down the hill. I've had enough of this shit. I'm not good at it. I don't like that I'm not good at it. I don't like that I'm not better than somebody at it. So yeah, I'm competitive, way too competitive for my own good. So yeah, I played soccer as a kid up until I did soccer and karts till I was about 12. And then it was like, hey, you're either letting down a team, like a soccer team, because you're not there half the time racing. So Dad sort of went, make your choice, and that was easy. That was motor racing every day of the week.
With your bike stuff though, did you go out the back and learn how to ride a motorbike, or did you go to like a little bike track to learn how to ride a
Dude, when it happens at 4, I couldn't tell you. I don't remember much of that. No, I have.
Do you have any photos?
I have photos of me learning to ride like a little Peewee 50. I think Dad took me to like to the local AFL field.
Yeah, okay.
And just pretty much walked behind me holding the back of the bike until you sort of let go and learn how to ride a bike. So yeah, that's sort of how I learned. Then I did end up racing. I think at Lake Macquarie, sort of in between the Central Coast and Newcastle, majority of the time. I'm shit house on 2 wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just didn't like it at all.
Oh, loved it. No good at it. Have this thing when I get in the air, no balance. like I love water skiing and stuff.
Yeah.
Wakeboarding. Then you got to jump something, no good.
Yeah, you're huge into water sports, hey?
Oh, probably not like Matt Dumsney or somebody like that. But I love water skiing. Learned how to barefoot a few years ago.
Do you do it down Hawkesbury River? Is that
no? Like Tuggerah Lakes.
Okay.
Yeah. I do get to the Hawkesbury occasionally, but not often. So love my water skiing and stuff like that. But the common denominator for me, it's the same as motorbikes, wakeboarding and shit. Anytime I get in the air, no good. No good. I like to keep firmly planted on the ground for me. But
how often do you get out and do the water skiing?
Oh, before children a lot. Now it's like, that's a lot of work. My daughter's 2 and my son's 1.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to the next couple of years. Like they're starting to get old enough now. They're like, Dad, let's go to the beach. It's like, yes, let's go to the beach. So I can't wait till they're sort of like 4 and 5, and it's like, all right, let's go learn how to ski or something. Or
do you want them in cars and bikes?
I would love that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be that dad that's like, you are going to race. Like if you want to play netball or dance, whatever, like I'm not going to stop my kids from doing it. But you'll be keen for your daughter to be in it? But I'll be secretly hoping they're doing what I want to do.
I said to Dan, we don't see enough of the girls down there at Sprint Car and that. So it'll be interesting to see with it, like yourself and others having like daughters now. Yeah. Will they see it and then get keen and go through?
So.
Yeah.
I hope so. Did you watch a Chilli Bowl?
No, I was going to bring up the Chilli Bowl.
Speaking of women in motor racing, like I think they had the highest finishing female they've ever had, like in history there. So,
in this year's one, I missed all this year's one.
No, so young girl, I think she's 16 years old.
That Jade
Avedizian.
I follow her. Yeah, she's crazy because that's what I was going to say. We don't see it in Australia, but I see these girls all in America. I said to Dan, I'm like, damn it, they're not here to interview.
Yeah, there's like I think it's. Now, I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong, but I think there's Taylor Rayner, Jade Avedizian, Kaylee Bryson. I'm probably missing 2.
There was McKenna Hass who came here too, doing Parramatta.
Yep.
I showed Brooke her injuries, by the way. She was like, holy shit, she got back out there and did it.
Oh, yeah. That's a pretty brutal story, that one.
Yeah.
It's I do hope my daughter takes an interest in motorsports in one way or another, but probably cheaper if they didn't, but I would still love to be at a racetrack every weekend, that's for sure.
Yeah. And with the Chilli Bowl stuff, you did race there, didn't you? Yeah. Well,
2013.
2013.
Yeah.
Well, did you just give up your sprint car season for that race or do like a partial schedule and then
we raced so I finished karts at 16, got straight into a wingless sprint car.
Yep.
So spoke to Dad, where do you want to go to from here? We tested Formula Fords.
You tested? You actually tested like road racing stuff?
Yes, I did a test at Wakefield Park with Tim. With
Tim Beale, Anglo. Yeah, okay.
Yep, Tim's a great guy.
Yep.
Did that. enjoyed it. But to be truthful, my father didn't like that. As a 16-year-old kid, when I hopped in, my knees were kind of touching, the roll cage was there.
Yeah.
And he said, look, I don't like that if you get T-boned, I'm worried you'll be trapped in the car.
Yeah.
So that was kind of one issue. And secondly, and again, probably shouldn't be saying these types of things, but we could run a sprint car for the same budget you could run a state Formula Ford on, basically.
Yeah, right.
So Dad was like, what would you like to do? I was like, sprint car.
And you guys get prize money.
Yeah, exactly.
We whinged about the same things on these shows.
So it was like, all right, we're going to go the speedway route, but Dad was like, and Toby's probably okay with me saying this, but Dad watched people like Toby who were 16 jump straight from a go-kart and a sprint car and wreck a lot of shit.
Yeah.
People around my age, Blake Skipper, there's a lot of people that end up in sprint cars before me, but my dad was like, no, you will jump in a wingless sprint car. It's the same size car. You're sitting in the same chassis, same wheels and all that. You can get familiar with driving this car on this track, but with 200 horsepower instead of 800 or 900.
Yeah.
And then when I feel that you're not going to wreck half of our shit, then you can race a sprint car. So I think I was 16 in a wingless. I think I was 18 or 19 before I hopped into a sprint car.
Yeah.
But I did both for a little while, the wingless and the sprint car on the same night.
Does the wingless teach you anything to when you go to a sprint car though, or is it just?
Yeah.
Was it more so just the handling that you learned from a wingless?
No, because the handle completely different.
Okay.
It's more the size of the car, like spatial awareness, I guess. It's like how big is this car? How much room do I need to leave when I'm passing people? Also, just getting onto Parramatta as a track, like what does it feel like to be on this track and stuff like that. Just being comfortable sitting in the containment seat, like obviously going from a go-kart with nothing around you to sitting in a cage upright with a full
Did you ever go on a
seat.
Legend car, by the way, when they were racing it? Oh,
no, I should have.
That was my only experience at that track.
I remember that. They looked like so much fun.
Oh, dude.
Cool little class. That held themselves really professionally too.
Yeah.
I feel like I should mention that. Like they always present themselves well, race well. Like
they got off the track too when you guys had to go out. It was really, as you said, it was really well managed at the time for a support class.
One of the best support classes around, and actually produced really entertaining racing too.
Yeah. But back to your wingless stuff.
So the wingless didn't teach you much handling. It really handled nothing like a sprint car, but spatial awareness is probably, and familiarity just with the car itself was probably the main difference. So it did both of them the year I went to the Chilli Bowl. Mm-hmm. So we raced up till January in the sprint car and the wingless. Tried to get a few rides in a midget in Australia before we went to the Chilli Bowl, because that would obviously be beneficial. That would serve me well.
Yeah.
But truth be told, every person we asked, what they wanted per race meeting was half of what we were going to spend at the whole Chilli Bowl.
Yeah, right.
Like Chilli Bowl rides are cheap. I shouldn't say that, but Chilli Bowl rides are cheap.
Wow.
Like bang for buck, awesome.
Yeah.
Unless you're driving a Keith Coons Toyota, but
how do you search for, like, because there's so many cars in that for, especially for that race for an open seat? Do you know what I mean? Or do you just ring up a team?
Probably contacts.
Yeah,
so Bill Roberts, a guy I mentioned earlier, super intelligent guy.
Alex Bowman has a team over there, and he's basically trying to recruit for that type of stuff.
Yeah,
do you know
exactly.
What I mean? So there must be heaps of teams over there that you can.
Yeah, I think they had 360 cars this year.
Holy shit!
Like you can find it, right?
Yeah.
But Bill goes to America every couple of months. Has a lot of contacts over there. Rung us up and said, "Hey, I want to do this race. Do you want to do it? It'd just be a cool experience. I think you'd do well. I've got a guy who's willing to rent a car. I know it's a good car. I'm happy to come and crew for it if you'd pay for my flights and stuff." And we went, and Dad just said to me once, "Do you want to drive a midget at the Chilli Bowl?" I was like, yeah, let's go do it.
Yeah.
Like, well, who the fuck wouldn't? Had no experience, probably, a bit, did it a bit blasé, but we had so much fun. Like,
were you overwhelmed by, like, the crowd though?
Dude, yeah.
Because that place is packed to the shit house when you watch it on TV.
Like, you hear about it and you're like, this is a big deal. I didn't know about it until sort of a year or two prior.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is a big deal. And then you get there and, like, that building itself, just to drive to the building.
Yeah. With the big thing out the front, the
golden driller.
The golden driller, that's it.
Yeah, but the building itself, like, you'll drive for a minute up the road, you're still driving past the same building.
Wow, and it's that big.
It's huge. Huge.
Holy
you
shit.
can't fathom how big this place is. And then you get in there and you can't hear anything because there's these midgets just screaming like unlimited motor rules and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when I went, I think the only rule, there was like 2 rules. I know one of them was you weren't allowed to have traction control.
Yep.
I can't remember what the other one was. And it might have been something stupid like you have to have a roll cage.
Yeah.
But like there was a guy there driving a car and he had the old open-faced helmet with a just goggles and a mask
like old school.
Old school.
When you were racing there,
yeah. There was cars,
and they got away with it.
Yeah, it was allowed.
Wow.
Tony Stewart was racing with no harms device or anything.
Oh wow.
Holy shit.
Then you have this car where the chassis it had an exposed front axle.
Yeah.
So they saved weight by just cutting the chassis off before the front axle and mounting it. So this guy, like, if he crashed into anything, the first thing that hit would be the front end and rip the front end out of the car.
Yeah.
I've heard stories of cars there that are so light, like pretty much a crew's like, don't crash, you might hurt yourself. So
yeah.
it's like the Wild West out there, man, but it's so cool. So cool, like atmosphere. Like they sell, so in Australia, if you buy a pit pass to any speedway, you're allowed in the pits or on the general admission, like that's just a free ticket.
Yeah.
You have to pay so packed there that they'll sell general admission and pit passes, but your pit pass doesn't allow you into the general admission because there's not enough seats.
Yeah, right.
So when they run out of general admission, people are just buying pit passes. So on the final night, we're pushing cars through the pits, and it's like people are like water around a rock, just like a sea of people, all sitting in the pits with lounge chairs and shit set up watching a big screen because they couldn't get tickets to the general admission. So they just bought pit passes and watched the racing from there, and they're tanked. There's a bar set up there when we were there. Like people selling grog, there's people staggering around the pits, pissed.
Holy shit.
Best atmosphere.
And
cool.
How old were you then?
Like
16, 17? Or older?
Probably 19.
19.
Yeah, probably 19, I think.
Yeah. And were you saying to your parents, like, like your crew there, like, holy fuck, is this normal? And they're
like, yeah, this is it. And like, open your mouth. See what, like, people will flock to you. And like, just open your mouth as an Australian. And people, sick, there's an Australian. And just want to come have a chat. It's so much fun. Like, people are just so friendly there. Is
it mainly like Americans, Canadians, and Australians, or is there British guys or any? Is there any other?
I think there's a guy. Oh, what's his name? The name's slipped my mind, but there was a British guy there.
Yeah. Because it's rare that you see them racing.
Plenty of Kiwis racing midgets too.
Yeah.
Obviously Michael Pickens is one of the best to do it.
Yeah.
But and we got there and it's an older crew of guys and they're really old school Yanks but they were the friendliest guys. But I got there and one of them goes, "I've got a girl for you to meet."
Yeah.
I'm like, "You're taking a piss." I was like, No, she's beautiful. I was like, "Okay, sure. We'll get to that later." So no. She's beautiful. She used to live next door to an Australian guy. That was her first love. She loves Aussies, wants to meet you.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, we're not doing that. I thought this is a classic cruise, like Days of Thunder shit. Yeah. This crew's going to hook me up with some
like Nicole Kidman thing.
Yeah. Is this lady a stripper? It's like, but sure enough, like I think I got fitted for my seat and stuff like that. And we weren't on that night, so they were out there racing. And his name was John, this old fella. Grey long ponytail, like he's an old school hippie.
Yeah,
awesome, but kindest dude you'll ever meet. And grabs me up by the arm. It's like, "Let's go. We're going to meet Carly." I was like, okay. Sitting there thinking like, what have I got myself into? What are they going to show up with? Is there going to be a bunch of people laughing at me? Yeah. Takes me to the promo girls, like the Hooters girls.
Yeah.
One of the most beautiful blonde women I've ever seen. It's like, "Here she is." I'm like, hi. She's like, "I've been waiting to meet you." I was like, oh man, I've never been so nervous in my life. Even driving a race car, I was like fucking stuttering. So we had so much fun though. Like people were friendly.
Yeah.
Made a heap of friends I still keep in touch with, not often, but still keep in touch with from time to time. And yeah, what an experience. I'd do that again in a heartbeat. Actually, being competitive, I hate going to a racetrack and not racing. Yeah. But that is one of the few places I could go and just spectate and have a lot of fun.
Yeah, right. So you'd even go back there just to spectate
every day of the week. Yeah,
yeah, right.
Yeah, that's something else. That's one of the blue ribbon events in Speedway altogether. I think, like forgetting midgets or sprint cars, just generally speaking, oval track racing, the Chilli Bowl is it, and like the amount of NASCAR personalities there too. Like you're like a kid in a candy store. It's like, "Oh, there's Kyle Busch. There's such and such." It's like, this is insane. Like,
they love
it. Like they all go there, whether they're spectating or racing. They go there.
I remember Kyle Larson saying, you would remember this, saying that he wanted to prefer to win the Chilli Bowl than the Daytona 500. Like
and the fans got really upset with that. Like, fine, go back to sprint cars. I think even NASCAR did a statement. They're like, no, we need to support grassroots racing. But I think that's a testament to Speedway. Whether it's midgets or sprint cars, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, we turn left all the time, but let's count how many times a sprint car race we make passes on people compared to a lot of other forms of motor racing. Like, it's brutal.
Yeah. Have you learnt any, like, does the Americans, when they come here to, like, Parramatta or, do you know what I mean, or even Eastern Creek, for example, do they come here and do they actually, like, are they friendly and give you guys advice or whatever, or do they just kind of stick to themselves and they're like
within reason? Like they're all friendly.
Do they get the shit stone and go, oh yeah, you hit me through this? Do they they're not aggressive at all?
Oh, they race more aggressively.
Yeah.
But they probably handle their shit better. Like if they're professional, they race every day of the week. They know that sometimes shit happens. I've never had a yank pissed off with me.
Okay.
They've only ever been friendly.
Yeah.
But yeah, you learn a bit from them. Like they probably race more aggressively, but they manage to do it cleanly too. Like there's 2 people that have raced me. Actually, no, sorry. The most aggressive person I've ever driven against was Lachy McHugh.
Okay. And he was a go-karter too back in the
day.
Yeah.
But he raced me cleanly. And it was actually at the Classic last year.
Okay.
Started the first heat race. I think he started on pole. I started out of 4th. We had two starts where guys crashed and they were both in front of me. So I ended up moving up the row and starting on the outside of him in the heat race. And we went, and I remember getting probably what felt like an inch off the wall. And I'm just looking beside me, watching his right rear coming at me. I'm thinking, fuck, I'm going to crash here. Like he's going to wipe me out because, the classic for us is our Chilli Bowl, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, that's our biggest car. Counts like, what do you think, 118?
Yeah.
At Warrnambool.
Is that the biggest one ever?
No, they did break 120 one year. I can't remember what year it was.
Yeah.
But that's our Chilli Bowl. So it's elbows out. There's aggression. There's, no apologies for shit. We go out there to win and that's it. So he raced me in a way that I thought he's going to wreck me. Yeah. But he must have pulled it up perfectly. Like he raced me so aggressively but so cleanly. Like 1 inch. I reckon he pulled up an inch off my left rear and I was an inch off the fence. Like gave me just enough room to puck in my butthole and not crash. And then we raced on. Like same thing once at Toowoomba. Like, I enjoy racing against Lachy. It shows me sort of how you can race extremely aggressively and hard and still not crash. Now, after what's happened at Archerfield last week, did you see that between Lachy and Macedo?
I heard about it. I didn't see it.
So I'm sure there's a lot of fans that would probably argue with me whether he's a clean driver or not.
The hard part for me now with doing this podcast, it's hard for me to keep up with all the races live while doing the pre-production.
That was interesting, Archerfield.
Yeah, so you can tell me about it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll do it diplomatically because I get along well with Carson and Sean Dyson. I get along well with Nick Speed and Lachy McHugh too, so I'll be the diplomat. But there was a slider thrown by Carson that they both had contact and took each other out, and there was a bit of a punch on in the pits, or a lot of a punch on in the pits. Crew chiefs, all that stuff.
Kind of reminds me of the Tony Stewart days. And Parramatta.
Oh, and there's always a mixed responses to that. Like, do you want to promote yourself as a family-friendly atmosphere where you don't fight? Like, that's bad. Let's not do that. Yeah. Or do you promote it for people who like the excitement? Like, let them fight. Let them show their emotions. Are we too robotic these days as far as, even football players or
well, NASCAR's changed. Do you know what I mean? Like NASCAR in 2006 to 2010, they had a lot more of like the WWE style type of thing in the pits.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably fall somewhere in the middle of that. Like,
I guess it's hard because the problem is with so much social media now, how when you're in it, like it's like I do fight sports, we're talking about people doing it here, but a lot of the kids see stuff now on TikTok and stuff and then think I want to take that to the streets, but it's not, they don't understand why or what happened. Someone might be pissed off and it might look like they're punching on, but they're not necessarily going in to kill the person. Whereas then they take it too far on the street and next minute you're hearing there's a king hit or something. 100%. You know what I mean? We're in a different world now to where we were.
I would hate to be trying to promote a sport like that.
Yeah.
Because how do you walk that line of, are our drivers boring now because they don't say the wrong thing? They get up there, they thank their sponsors, they kiss everybody's ass. Yeah. Good boy, well done. Or do you let somebody be themselves, a character or a personality where they might go on and beat the shit out of that guy? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you find that balance as a promoter or as a sport to go, we don't want to be robotic, but we also don't want to be NASCAR where we look like a bunch of rednecks punching.
You also want to sell seats, basically. If you could get Warrnambool everywhere at every speedway track, the actual...
It would be a professional sport. There would not be any sort of semi-professional sort of sport there. Sprintcars would be like a V8 supercar.
I think Sprintcars do have that because honestly, because I don't want to watch cricket in the off season, right? No. I want to watch it on mainstream TV, which is what WA's doing, which is what Toby pointed out. Do you know what I mean? There's so much potential with Sprintcars and Speedway right now.
That's like I've only been thinking of it the last 12 months, probably since Eastern Creek Open. I was like, I would love to promote a race meeting once. Like an annual race meeting, just a once off, because I'd still rather race, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But I I agree. I think there's a heap of potential in sprint cars. I think it's very dependent on the track that they're given as to how good that product is, how good the racing is. There's a lot of factors there, but I think done properly, speedway could be, or sprint cars in particular, could be much bigger than it is.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
I think it's like we saw in WA, you know how they're filming it on Channel 7 and bringing it, we were saying online, where we're not seeing it. I said to Dan, we don't see it here in our states on TV.
Absolutely not.
I know that Stu was saying it's because they can't promote crashes and stuff, but I don't get that when we've got like UFC and things like that.
Yeah.
That's what I don't.
Just Supercars on
yes,
TV.
And
explain to me that.
Yes, there's so many things when I was sitting there thinking about it, and I was like, I don't understand this. Of course you don't have that in the ad. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, but then I'm like, I don't understand why we can't air this. We're airing way more dangerous stuff.
Yeah,
like we
100%.
just like the UFC. What was it? One championship last week. We watched Mikey just crush that guy's knee in 20 different ways for like 4 minutes, and that's okay.
It's like, but that's all right.
God forbid we put on sprint cars. So I'm a little bit lost with how this all works. Yeah,
Chariots of Thunder up in Darwin do an awesome job too. I don't know if you've watched much of that, but they get on 7 Mate as well. They're getting into all the government grants to help make sure that the show, that sort of period up there is funded well, so they can put on a great show, and the track is prepared well. So there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle. But when it's done properly, I think it's a great show.
Yeah.
And Warrnambool proves that time and time again. I know they've had troubles with their track this season, but again, when it's done right, there's no better show.
They should 100%, by the way, in my opinion, televise that event, by the way, every year. Warrnambool Class, like on Channel 7. Because
that one baffles me. And I don't know how much TV costs and all that, so I'm not going to sit here and upset the people behind the scenes that are going, well, that's bullshit. We can't do it because of this, and this.
Motorsport Australia's involved now, so they could potentially help that. Do you know what I mean? There's heaps of avenues there that could...
I think that would be a great... I'm hoping that becomes a great partnership and that helps Excel Speedway. Yeah. But yeah, we have it in parts, you know, like the Chariots of Thunder up in Darwin. It's televised. It's promoted really well. You know, they do the motorcade down the main street, down Mitchell Street in Darwin, where they hook, you know, start all the sprint cars up, hook them all onto, you know, straps and tow them down the street. So the general public can see it and get a feel for it. Perth is doing brilliantly over there. Like, hats off to those guys. Warrnambool has a brilliant event. I feel like New South Wales is being left behind a bit, and I say that with all due respect to promoters and people behind the scenes trying. Yeah. But we're missing something.
Yeah, there's a lot of growth. It's like we said, when you sit in the arena there at Eastern Creek, there's no sponsorship, for example, on anything. I said that to Dan, you look around, but next door we've got Eastern Creek where the supercars are, that every single, you know, like around the track, you've got all the sponsors usually, all the big screens up the top. And I said, we're just missing, I know that they've got a long way to go, there's all the stuff going on, but that's a huge growth area.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like, I probably say everything, if there's any constructive criticism for Eastern Creek, I say that keeping in mind that, yes, they're only new, they've got a lot of work to do, and they probably haven't had the easiest run. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
They're also shutting down that Archerfield.
Yeah, that's got to be hard for them. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm in no way shitting on them, but there's a long way to go with Eastern Creek, and it probably will get there. I hope it does.
What I miss, though, is, but you would love it too, because remember you guys, the Ultimate Sprint Car Championship, you'd have photos of yourself all around the track.
Yeah, that's famous to a couple of thousand people.
Wade Augner and Stewie did, like, all the guys behind that. That was, for me as a fan coming to the stadium, that was cool because you know who you're watching. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, that was probably the brainchild of, well, not the brainchild, but we had the promoter there at the time was Barry Waldron. He owns that East Coast Pipeline team with that Lachy McHugh drives for.
Yeah, okay.
So he owned Parramatta at the time.
And Robbie was driving for him at the time.
And Robbie was driving for him. Yeah. So at that, in the space of a couple of years, he owned Murray Bridge Speedway in South Australia. He owned Parramatta and he owned Toowoomba. He was the first promoter. And again, I'm probably never going to be allowed in at any other tracks anymore because I'm doing a lot of shitting on people. But Barry was the first. So sprint cars 20, 30 years ago used to roll up on open trailers, couple of tunes, a couple of tanks of fuel, a tyre or two, and a couple of shocks. Yeah. That was it. That was in the 80s, yeah? Yeah. Probably even in the 90s. It was really grassroots racing. Yeah. In the space of 20, 30 years, we're now driving around in semi-trailers, teams kitted out like supercar teams. Like, it's not unusual. Like our truck, personally, we have a semi-trailer. It's 48 feet long, maximum height. We carry two complete cars,
in the one trailer?
Yeah, with all parts for a third car to assemble it if we wanted to hit the road and do World Series, for argument's sake.
Yep.
We have a shock dyno. We have a kitchen. We have living quarters for drivers of the truck and stuff like that. Like, the level that the teams have taken the sport to over the past 20 years, and what we do isn't out of the ordinary. Like, go to Eastern Creek on just a standard race night, and you could have Sean Dyson there, who's immaculate. Mick Salad, like Mark Saller's team. Yeah. You know, the Caunts, the amount of, you know, DTM Motorsports, Bohard Racing, which is a new one, the amount of teams there that, apart from not having a B-double truck, look like a supercar team driving down the road. Yep. And for 20 years, the track's never changed. Yeah. It still looks like, you know, it was dug out of a paddock. But the teams are rolling up looking $1 million, but the track doesn't. So Barry Waldron has always been my favourite promoter, purely for the fact that he arrived, bought tracks, brought them up to the standard that the teams had picked themselves up to, and all of a sudden did things like he hired actually a guy behind the scenes, Steve May, to take care of things like promoting Parramatta and creating the ultimate Sprintcar Championship, and that was televised for its first year. Yeah, I think it was it was on Fox Sports. Yep. But hanging all the banners up, I went in there countless times for voiceovers and photo shoots to hang your photo on the track.
Where was that? Where was that photo shoot with the car and that? I've always wondered because it's still.
Oh, with mine personally.
Yeah.
So that was separate to the track. That was Wade Ornger just by himself came up to the coast. Yep. And we found one of the local beaches and parked the car there and took photos and stuff. So that was completely separate, but all around that same period where Barry was happy to hire Wade, hire Stu McCarthy, hire Steve May to take care of marketing and advertising and stuff. Yep. I think Gavin Skeen, who's the art of speedway photography, who's a weapon in his own game. Like, talk about the best of the best. He was doing work for them. So he assembled a team of guys that must have cost a bomb. Yep. But that track was now brought up to the standard that the teams had been up to. You know, so I love that about Barry. Yep. Because as far as I'm concerned, the glory days of my racing in speedway were under Barry's watch. A lot of people didn't like how Parramatta ended under his ownership, but what are you doing, COVID?
It's a bit hard because at that point,
how do you navigate that?
Yeah, like, you're overrode by the government. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you can't,
and we don't know what happened behind closed doors.
Yeah,
like, did they forcibly take it today or last month? Like, and people are going, well, we could be running a race meeting now. Like, I don't know what negotiation happened behind closed doors, and I'm fortunate enough to have grown up in a business, you know, a business owning family where it's like what everybody sees on the outside probably isn't what's happening behind closed doors. So I don't hold any grudges for not getting a farewell to Parramatta as such. As sad as that was, but like I said, what do? You're in COVID times. The government's, you know, forcibly taking your track off you. Yeah. I don't know how you navigate that and keep everybody happy.
I knew Parramatta was coming into an end, and so did you with the Scott Darley Challenge. When that basically announced it was basically the last one, I was like, this is a sad time. Do you know what I mean? As a driver for yourself and a fan, you're like, fuck, because that event purely was like our Warrnambool classic.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
And that had the same razzmatazz, I guess, as far as a New South Wales Speedway event, like, because it was a 50 grand to win. It was a memorial race, which was obviously very near and dear to a lot of people's hearts there. So
I thought it was cool how the winner of the first night had to choose number. They could opt for the 19th spot, which is Scott's number.
You need to promote stuff like that. Like, change it up a bit. Like, the biggest thing I hate that Eastern Creek doesn't do right now is, and you've probably saw it at Parramatta, the pole shuffle. Yeah. I hate watching a shootout where it's basically another time trial session, another qualifying session for the 6 or 8 fastest guys. Yeah. This is probably before your time, Brooke, but if you watch pole shuffle videos where they'd get the guy that was in 8th spot, put 7th beside him, 2 laps, 2 cars, throw the kitchen sink at each other. It was actually a match race. Okay, the winner moved on. Yeah. They'd verse 6th, 5th. So the guy that was meant to start 8th could actually work his way up to 1st by match racing the other guys for 2 laps at a time. And because you knew there was no other drivers on the track, like, that was like gloves off shit. Like, people were throwing moves on each other that would not work in a race. It would wreck everybody, but it was like, fuck it, it's me and him. He knows I'm going to do this. So there was a bit of give and take. You could race harder in the pole shuffle than you could the rest of the night.
I remember once, I think maybe for memory, that I think you withdrew. I think you just couldn't give the shit about it. You were like, I don't want to. There was one night where one sprint car driver at Parramatta, like, there was some controversy, and one of them was like, I don't want to do the pole shuffle.
That definitely wasn't me. I love the pole shuffle.
You're like, give me the damn pole shuffle.
I think one of them, it might have been one of the Americans, he was like, I just can't be bothered because I'll just go for the 19. I think it might have even been the Scott Darley Challenge one of the drivers cracked the shits and then didn't decide to do one of the pole shuffle thing, and then obviously one guy went through from 8th or 7th to the next one, and then he'd already been rolling around the track, so he's warming up his tyres, his engine, and that's what helps the guys starting from the back because
they're already hot. But no, look, there was 2 pole shuffles for me. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's cool.
That's all good. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so there's 2 pole shuffles for me that you may have been thinking of. I've never thrown the towel in one, but I remember one, and I think it was Scott Daly or a 50 lapper, and Kerry Madsen was in the Caneric racing.
Yep.
The American racing wheel car, whatever it was, the black and grey car. I remember it vividly.
Yep.
And I'd started the pole shuffle, I think in 8th or something like that. I think the first car I versed was Grant Anderson. I think by memory, don't hold me to it. I beat him, which wasn't expected out of me. The next one is Stephen Lyons. Beat him. Didn't expect that either.
Yep.
And the next one is Kerry Madsen came out. And I think the general consensus of the crowd was, give it to Kerry, go do 2 practice laps, basically, because I think Wade...
That was what I remember.
I remember Wade saying over the microphone very clearly, it's like, careful, young fella, if you're going to pull on Superman's cape, you better have a pocket full of kryptonite. I remember watching it back on, So I think they went green and Kerry had like 50 metres on me by the time we got to turn 1.
Yeah.
And by the time we did 2 laps, he had like the length of the straightaway. Yeah. So I was like, okay. I'll pretend like I didn't try, but I tried very hard. I just got my ass wiped. And the only other time I did spectacular shit in the pole shuffle was there was one pretty recently towards the end of Parramatta where I was actually starting to get decent, I thought. I pulled a monster wheel stand off the start of the pole shuffle, like dragged the tail tank halfway down the straightaway. I was like, oh, fuck that up. So but I still kept going. But it's pole shuffles there, man. They're very entertaining as far as I'm concerned in sprint car racing. They should be at every race meeting, every single one. Yeah. Every single one. The fact we don't do them at Eastern Creek is a problem.
Yeah. So you want them back. And do you reckon
100%.
I'm pretty sure Wayne Baines, because Brooke and I went up there for one of the meetings, I think he was trying to make it squeeze and work for one of the...
It's time consuming. That's the problem. So if you've already got a meeting not running well on time, the first thing to go is, their dashes or their shootout race. Yeah. And a pole, the top 8 sort of races, whether you call them a shootout, a time trial, whatever the hell you call them. The pole shuffle in that format is the longest. It takes the longest to complete. Yep. So I don't think promoters like them for that reason. But that makes no sense to me because I think your crowd loves them. Yeah. And if you want to,
Can't they start the event earlier also for supports to get that stuff in? Is there a way to time consume it or is it...
we keep coming back to a reason why I'd love to promote an event once a year, like an annual event, because...
Any promoters listening here?
I'll do it myself. Fuck it. I really would because I agree. Yeah. There's plenty of things we could be doing for that track and not that track, but speedway in general. Yeah, there's no reason support categories can't start earlier. And we went to Dubbo last season and I was keen as because Dubbo, I feel like country people get behind motor racing more. Probably why Warrnambool is so successful. Yeah. You're not in Melbourne, you're in Warrnambool. Yeah. And
there's nothing out there, really. Bar a zoo.
I didn't say that. You said that.
You're definitely did not so much hate mail there, Dan.
Thought you were going to edit that?
I'll leave that in.
I'll leave that in. Make sure they know he said it. No, but I feel like that's probably partially a way you could grow our sport is go to country towns. Yeah. And Toby, by the way, what Toby's doing is awesome too.
Yeah, I agree.
Much needed. But when he came out to Dubbo when we raced there last season or season before?
Last season. Yeah.
So he made a really interesting statement that stuck with me. He goes, Dubbo's population is triple that of Warrnambool.
Yeah, right. Did not know that.
And Dubbo as a track is probably the closest shape to Parramatta across the country.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
sitting going, why the fuck aren't we out here more? So issues there, and I'm not going to, tracks that don't have sprint cars often probably need to have them more often to understand how you can refine that race meeting and make it run properly. Yeah. So sprint cars destroy tracks in the sense that we butcher them. Yeah. They end up smooth, but they end up from sticky and brown with lots of grip to glass slick where you're tearing tyres off them.
Yep.
So one of the major contributors to that is heat and when you put a sprint car on the track. So Dubbo had us out there. By memory, it's like 34 degrees. Yeah. So it's already hot. You're wetting the track to try and keep moisture in it. It's drying up as quick as you can wet it. And they had sprint cars on pretty much first.
Yep.
Like we're baking the track. We're qualifying in like 34-degree heat.
Yeah.
It's like that's a prime example of support categories should all be racing from 3 o'clock onwards.
Yeah.
Or pick a time, whatever time you need as a promoter. Have them racing.
At the start.
Yep. They do the least damage to the track and leave enough racing for the night so that sprint car drivers aren't just constantly racing. Like we need time in between races to change the cars, get ready and all that stuff. So if it were me, I'd be running all the heat races for support categories before a sprint car even touches the track.
I agree.
Sprint cars go out and qualify. Then you may have a B main for a support category in between qualifying and heat races. And the sprint cars do their heats. Have an A main for a category in between the second round of heats, and then have your last A main for your support category before the B main of a sprint car. Yep. And then the last 2 events of the night should be a sprint car B main straight into a sprint car A main.
Yep.
And that, for a multitude of reasons, would be better in my opinion. Because, like I said, preserving the track for longer while it's hot, you're not destroying the track with sprint cars. They tend to run better on time, support categories. Like a lot of them are self-starting. If they spin out, they start themselves up and go again. Yeah. Stuff like that. So I'm a big believer in that. Like what you said, we should be starting earlier. Support categories on first. A sprint car shouldn't hit the track till 6 o'clock at night. And then sprint car should be the last event. There's nothing worse than seeing a sprint car event finish. Yeah. And going, oh, now we have the wingless sprint A main. And I love wingless sprints, but the crowd fucking empties. Yeah. And nobody's watching the wingless sprints. Like they lose half of their crowd, half of an opportunity to showcase sponsors and showcase their product because they do some brilliant racing. And if you're a sprint car guy trying to sell merchandise in the pits after the race meeting, if the family with young kids has gone, fuck it, the sprint car race is done, we're going home, you don't get anybody through the pits. There's no atmosphere after the race meeting where kids are running around getting your signature and like getting your autograph or trying to buy merchandise and stuff. It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah. That happened last time when we were at Eastern Creek. They did that. It was the support classes finishing and we said, well, we're going to have to go now because of the way that timing everything ended. Even as a thing, you didn't mean it, but it was just like, well, it's late now and then we're not going to be able to get down. And you guys, Dan was like, I think the sprint car guys are going to be packed up. I don't think I'm going to be able to talk to anyone.
Yeah, 100%.
And it just became, weird. So that's everything you said makes sense. So it makes me wonder why they don't.
Oh, look, I'll probably get crucified for it, but there's probably reasons behind that. So I know there's time curfews. Yeah. Sprint cars being the loudest category that you can get. Oh, okay. I do believe there's noise and noise restrictions. So potentially you can run a wingless sprint or a street stocker race after the curfew. Yeah. Maybe. That's one of the reasons that I've heard.
Even at Eastern Creek?
Yeah, there's noise. Yeah,
right.
Which is strange with the drag strip next door.
Yeah.
But yeah, so... And, look, if that is a problem where you're breaking curfews, so you've got to put the sprint cars on first and have the support categories run afterwards, more to the point, start earlier.
Yeah. Just reshuffle. Yeah.
Start earlier or put all the support categories first so the sprint cars are going to be the last thing on the track. If the crowd so pleases to go down and buy merchandise and get autographs and stuff, they can do that. Yeah. So...
Have you had merchandise or not really?
No, in the process.
Okay. So you actually are making some now?
Yeah, I got Roddy Balboa designing some shirts and stuff and some hats and flags and all that. So, and he's got some artistic flair, that guy. I like Roddy's shit.
Dan will be one of the first people to buy it. Good. He owns all sprint car stuff. Like he's even wearing like SVG's new one.
Yeah. How good is it to see people like that in sprint cars?
I was going to ask you, how do you find it now having a supercar guy? Because he's in New Zealand now, like sort of like learning and on the track there. But if he was to come over here and race, are you guys all excited to see him in there?
For sure. There's no like us versus them. Yeah. We're sprint car guys. No, fuck that. You come race my shit, I'd like to race your shit. But that's only good for a sport, isn't it? Like having...
Cameron Waters takes his operation very seriously, Chief Racing.
Yeah, and I think that's a testament to sprint cars as well. He could race supercars and be a happy dude. The fact he wants to do this means that there's something cool here. Yeah. Like, there's something that is drawing the drivers to us. Yeah. Because I raced against Brody Kostecki. I think it was Brody in Toowoomba last season.
Yeah, that's right. He had the boost car.
Yes. Like, John Weatherall owned car, boost back. So... one of the Kostecki boys has done it, SVG, Cam. Yeah. I think that says a lot about what we do in the sense that, all right, clearly we don't promote ourselves that well. Yeah. But we have a good product here. It's exciting, whether it's for drivers or fans. It's an exciting product. So
I think it definitely is because they're showing what SVG's been like, sort of like sharing his journey, like starting, and he's showing how hard it is. Like, and I think that's what's so cool. What people are going to realize, like, yes, he's amazing in tar, but he's in this race and going, oh shit, this is hard. Like, this is a new challenge for me, and he's done rally everything. So I think it just goes to show for you guys and everyone else on the track what you're doing is so competitive and awesome out there, and to have someone at that level go, oh shit, like
like I watched one of his Insta reels, and it was like I haven't been scared driving a race car for a long time. I was like, good. Like, I'm so glad that he's not putting on this bullshit like he doesn't give a shit or anything.
You can tell he's going to come back though, because the way he said that, he's like, I haven't had this much excitement in ages.
100%. But he's paying it the respect it deserves. Like, this machine makes me a little nervous. That's great. That's great. I'd rather that than him going, oh, fuck it, it's just a sprint car.
Well, we had little Tommy Sargent on, and he was like, because he's headed to the States for Porsche, and we said, would you do it? And he goes, I am so scared of it. I am so scared. He goes, I've raced all the other stuff, and he goes, but I am scared shitless. Nathan Hearn, who races it, he's like, the first time they put me in there, I think it was Marcus Ambrose and that, he's like, they're just like, I came back in, I think his quote was like, my eyes were like dinner plates, and I was freaking out, and they're going to me, go again, and I'm like, holy shit, everyone.
How did you find that though when you first were a rookie in sprint cars? Like, was it like that, what Hearn said, like, gotta get back out again, you're like, holy shit, I'm literally just trying to take this in.
So, and like, without bragging, like, I ran a wingless sprint, and I think we won like 4 A mains in our first year and a couple in our second year. Like, we won a state title in New South Wales. The next year was winning it, spun out on a lap car, went from last and came third. Like, we did really well in that. I felt so prepared. Like, you can't be better prepared for a sprint car than what I've done. And I remember the first heat race going like, fuck, I just fucked up turn 1 and 2. And by the time I'd thought I've fucked up turn 1 and 2, I was in 3 and 4. So I'm like, oh shit, like, now I'm about to, I've driven off the end of one end of the track. Now I'm about to drive off the other end of the track. So I'm still thinking about what I did at that end of the track. Like, there is, when people say like your head was spinning, like, genuinely when you're doing 12 seconds a lap around Parramatta, it is hands full. My head was at one end of the track, and it's like, by the time you get the hang of it in a heat race, it's like, oh, checkered flag. And like, I think, what was the record for a heat race around Parramatta? Like
12 seconds or?
No, a heat race. A 10-lap heat race. I think it may have been like a minute 45 or 2. Let's say 2 minutes for the sake
itself.
So qualifying was like 11.5 second lap. But let's say for the sake of the argument, a 2-minute heat race. You've done 10 laps in 2 minutes. I couldn't work that shit out. Like, it took a long time. It's like, holy shit.
And what I do now, I do 1 minute a lap, basically. It's crazy like, for a big circuit racer from like myself to you.
So if you do a 1 minute lap and we've done 10 laps in a minute 45 or 2 minutes, it's like, there's a lot happening there. And there's 10 other guys in a heat race that are all chopping and changing too. Like, there's, you know, and you probably get that from everybody, that anytime you ask somebody on an interview, what's it like to drive a sprint car, they pump it up, but I truly don't think there's anything like it. Like, there's no bullshit there. You know, it's one thing having 24 guys go into a corner on black track, but now point them all sideways and have them sliding across the track and shit. And
I've got to ask, my only experience in sprint cars is that World of Outlaws game. So, so I've got to ask from my point of view, because on the World of Outlaws game, I've experienced it. Is the most terrifying thing passing lap cars during the race?
No, the most terrifying, for me personally, the most terrifying part is the start of an A main. Not if you're starting pole, not if you're starting last. You're starting about, 24 cars. You're starting 10th or 12th in an A main.
Right in the middle of the pack.
Oh, fuck. You go to turn 1 like, this is going to be bad. Because there's just shit happening everywhere. Like, wall here, wall there, 3 or 4 guys going at it. And, you know.
Do you expect to be a bit touched in the first corner? Like, do you, especially Parramatta, right? Parramatta. Because there was a lot of mid-pack crap going on, in the A mains then.
You never expected or never aimed for it, because it doesn't end well, which obviously you guys would know. Like, touching wheels in an open wheel car usually ends in a wreck. So you never aim to. Does it happen often? Yeah, but you never aim to. Never hope to have anybody touching you up like that, because I'd rather not. I'd rather not start 12th in an A main anyway. But
with Peter O'Neill, your teammate, as you said at the start of the podcast, because he's just like a customer driver type of thing and a good friend. Does he like learn from your data in a way? Or like
absolutely.
He does. So he comes on and he actually takes a bit of your learning experiences.
We'll have all my shocks on the dyno going like, this is what I'm running. Like, do you want to run that for you? And usually my base setup will be his base setup. it's very driver dependent too. And that's with all forms of motor racing. Like you can have two identical cars with teammates, but one guy likes it, a bit freer in the arse end, the other guy likes it a bit tighter or whatever. So he learns a lot from us. I like to think he learns a lot from us. As far as setup and driving tips too. Like sprint cars is different. If you've raced anything road racing and your first instinct is to get to the corner and stop. And if you do that in a sprint car, all it does is want to get over the right front and tip over. There's a lot of driving technique that has to be thrown out and relearned. Yeah. I like to think we help him with driving a bit. He's a good driver in his own right anyway. Yeah. But there's little tips and pointers there.
Did he just approach you at a random meeting and come up to you and say, "Is there any chance of me driving a sprint car?" Or did you just randomly work it out in some sort of way?
I think so. Back to the Ferries, the family. Yep. Yeah, I think he was good friends with them, or he knew them.
Yep.
They had known that I think he'd bought his own sprint car engine.
Yep.
Raced a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
But was looking for a different team, so he owns his engine. That's
okay. Part of that so he owns his engine. Okay.
Yeah, and we own the car and obviously service it, maintain it, get it to the track, all that stuff.
Yeah.
They just put us onto him and said, "Look, he's looking for a ride. Would you be interested?" And it all just started from there.
Yeah. Does any of the karting stuff in any way, racing go-karts like Jay's or Clubman or whatever you've done at Rotax and stuff, is there any version of the go-kart that helped you with sprint cars or not really? With none of that stuff. So
not in the slightest.
So all that stuff out the window. You start from
not
scratch.
Out the window. Like there's obviously go-karts teaches you racecraft.
Yeah,
plain and simple. Like
yeah,
when I say like starting in the middle of an A main at Parramatta is probably like getting in junior clubman at a state title and starting in 20th out of 40 karts. Like so. No, I shouldn't say nothing. That's not the right thing to say. Racecraft is everything in go-karts. Like that's invaluable what you learn there. But as far as handling, speed, anything like that, no, it's not even close.
What would you say like the closest thing to train at would be to sprint car?
The wingless sprint car. Okay. It has to be. So, the wingless sprint is just a sprint car with the wings removed.
Yep.
Take the V8 out, put a V6 in.
Yep. But there's no other sport you'd say if someone was coming from bikes or something that would have them?
A lot of guys that run motocross are very good.
Like Matt Dunsney, he likes his bikes.
Yeah, 100%. And he picked up, I mean, it's in his blood, but he picked up sprint car racing pretty damn quick too.
Yeah.
Maybe motocross. That's about it. I don't really know any find me a car in the world that turns left when you turn left, like lays left when you turn left. Like, that's the most head fucking thing when you drive a sprint car is you got to turn left and instead of the car falling to the right, it wants to dive on the left. Like it's just boggling for a while. Yeah. And then it all clicks.
What's your take on, obviously, now the Americans have gotten to Australia finally.
Yeah, that looked like it wasn't happening for a while. That was a bit nerve-wracking.
What's your take on, obviously, the World of Outlaws rules? Because Brooke and I were reading this the other day.
Yep.
Apparently it's like what is it, Brooke? Three races or something?
No, it's you might know this as well, Alex, because I was reading what their rules are from December they announced in the States because they're all under contract with really tight agreements. And it said that they had 4 non-World of Outlaw events they're allowed to do in 2023 without restrictions. And that meant as long as they're outside the 48 hours or 100-mile radius before or after a World of Outlaws event.
Yeah.
They then can do, 5 to 8 events, but you're not eligible for the, the exclusivity bonus program.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at, part of that prize.
What a way to wrap that shit up, hey?
Yeah. then that's why we weren't sure because when everyone they had wild things about why they couldn't and couldn't come. I was like, is this because there's just so much politics over there where they are with World of Outlaws contracts or is it
a Speedway Australia thing?
No, nothing to do with Speedway Australia. They're completely separate in America. But that would be, in my opinion, purely and simply Kyle Larson's influence.
Really?
So have you heard of the series he started?
Yeah.
High limit
Yeah.
racing. I think it's like $20,000 to win or something like that pretty much every night, which is better paying money than most sprint cars in America have crown jewel races. So in Pennsylvania, you've got, I think, 2 or 3 races at a $50,000 plus to win. Then you've got Eldora has multiple $50,000 to $150,000 to win races. They're running $1 million to win race next season at Eldora.
That's Tony Stewart's deal, isn't it? On his own.
Yeah. And then you got the Knoxville Nationals, which is $150,000 yank to win.
Yep.
So basically, apart from that, though, you're running for, like Australia, between $2,000 and $5,000 a night for a win.
Yeah, and this is a World of Outlaws race, right?
Yeah, World of Outlaws stuff. From what Again, don't hold me to it.
Yeah,
I'm not the guy signing contracts.
This is just a podcast. Exactly. This is not national.
You don't want to be that guy where there's comments under going, this dickhead doesn't know what he's talking about.
That's what I say to Dan when we do different stuff. I'm like, people will be like, shit, you didn't know that. And you just like, you get worried, but then at the same time, you're trying to, everyone's
fuck it. If we want to talk about it, I'll
that's why
talk about it. I make
no
bones about it. I'm no expert at anything.
But there's so many races in the World of Outlaws, which makes sense, which is why that prize money's there. But Kyle Larson is fitting in his racing series amongst that, like a chain on effect.
Yeah,
basically.
He also boycotted the Chilli Bowl this year, him and Christopher Bell.
Yeah, right.
Because it only pays 10 grand to win the Chilli Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Now, if you're a promoter, you've got 360 cars paying an entry fee, you packing out a crowd of 10,000 people a night. You can't tell me you're not making enough money. Like it's paid 10 grand for, let's say, 10 years for argument's sake.
Yep.
10 years ago, they got 280 cars to an event. Now they're getting 360 and they haven't upped the prize money.
Yeah.
So this is what Kyle Larson's exposing. Going, well, bugger you.
Yeah.
If you're not going to pay us what we think we're entitled, because again, the costs for the teams have gone up. The promoters seem to be making more money, but they're not sharing it with the drivers. Like they're not earning their fair share. So basically he went, I'll start my own series.
Yep.
When the World of Outlaws went, it clashes. So our guys can't do it anyway. I went, fine, we'll slot the dates in so they can do it.
Yeah.
Kind of forcing the World of Outlaws organisation's hand to go, well, shit, are we going to be that organisation that stops our guys potentially earning another $20,000 a night? And logistically they can do it.
Yeah.
The only reason we would stop them is because we're a bunch of assholes trying to wrap them up in one series. And so I think he kind of forced their hand.
Yeah.
And hence now, okay, you can do 4 meetings provided they're not within the radius or the time
But that's what we said. The guys that came here, like Dan said, they're in 3 events.
Basically,
is
in
that
3
of
events.
your 4? I said to Dan straight away. So does that only leave you with one of Kyle Larson's events in the States for the year? And then you, if you do more,
are you meaning like the Australian stuff?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. I don't believe it's.
So that doesn't count.
No, because they're not contracted for their year yet. They haven't started their season. They don't start till February, I think. In
so
Florida.
It's not void. It's not. It's
no. I don't think the Australian. No, I don't think the Australian. So their season before they arrive here, done and dusted. The World of Outlaws is done. They've all been paid their annual prize money. They've had their presentation night done. They don't start up again until February.
Yeah.
What they do in between then, don't give a shit.
And they've got a contract again because it's more of a loopholes and so on.
Yeah.
There's 20 drivers that are contracted officially for the World of Outlaws, and then that's how it goes on. It just goes on and on this rule book.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think the complaints from a lot of people is that the Outlaws in its humble beginnings was a bunch of guys who didn't want to conform to this series or that series.
Yeah.
So they went, fuck it, we'll get together and go race here, there and everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's how the World of Outlaws was born.
Yep.
Generally speaking. So how do you have an organisation that's called World of Outlaws, but you're in fact outlawing them from running an outlaw schedule?
Yeah.
Like the whole idea of the outlaw schedule was that they did whatever the hell they wanted. They raced here, there and everywhere. They just chased big money all the time.
Yep.
So if you were going to take the very essence of what your organisation is or how it began and kill them earning good prize money purely because you want to wrap everything up in your own little package, then that's not on.
I saw Marcus Stumsy, you would have seen too. He did the high limit race as well when he was over there. I think he did the first one from memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't get to watch much of the American stuff this year, actually. Only, there's one thing the Outlaws do well is that you can always catch a highlights reel of the A-Main 24 hours later, or not even. I think it's like 6 or 8 hours later. So
on YouTube or something.
Yeah, so that's basically about the extent of me keeping up with American stuff or maybe reading about it on Facebook. But I want to do America soon.
Like, you do. So you haven't gone over there already yet?
So I've done the Chilli Bowl.
Only for the Chilli Bowl, yeah.
Which,
different.
Yeah. But yeah, I would love to do like, I think in the space of 6 or 8 weeks, you can do some ridiculous amount of racing. Yeah. So I think you can do Ohio Speed Week, which they race 8 nights out of 9 at a different track every night, which is brutal. And I think they have a 2-week break or a week break, a short break, put it that way. Yep. And they go to Pennsylvania and do a speed week there. Same thing. I think it's 8 nights of racing over 9 nights. And I think if you pissed off for 3 weeks or a month, then you go back over, you pick up what the Outlaws called is a month of money.
Yeah,
and they do like a track called the Ironman 55, which is probably one of the best tracks in the world for speedway.
Yep.
They do a 55-lap race there for a stupid amount of money, and basically that whole month leading up to the Knoxville Nationals, they're all big money race meetings.
Yeah.
So I think over the space of, let's say, 2 months, for argument's sake, you could do like 27 nights of racing or 30 nights.
Oh, wow.
Basically race every second night for 2
Yeah.
months. So as an Australian, if you can just slot in there for a week or two,
Yeah.
I can almost do our seasons of racing in 1 month over there.
Would you give up like a seasons of racing here to do that though? In a season,
Probably.
would you take your family over there and that, or do you think it's?
Well, this is where logistically it gets hard. You
Yeah.
know, this is why, Marcus doesn't have kids. He's not married, same as Lachy McHugh and all those guys that do it. Like, logistically it gets harder when you've got a big family and you've got kids and a wife. Like I can't bail on my kids and wife for a month.
Yeah.
So yes, they would have to come. So yeah, it's something that my father's always threatened to do it too.
Yeah.
Because anytime sprint cars in Australia gets political or it gets expensive, like our tyres, I think have gone up ridiculous amounts of money in the past 12 months.
Yeah, they can't get enough tyres in here.
Exactly. So the price has gone through the roof.
Yeah.
So he said, he's like, I can afford to do it, and I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. But out of principle, if it gets to a certain point, I won't do it. He goes, I'll sell everything here, send 2 cars over to America, and we'll go and race for 1 month a year over there.
Yep.
Because I'll do the same amount of racing instead of...
Yeah.
And he's said that for years, ever since I can remember.
Yeah.
He's like, why do we spend 6 months trying to do 20 race meetings here when I can go to America and do 20 in 1 month and come back here and go water skiing through summer? So that's something that I think we'd all love to do as a family.
Yeah.
Just got to get the timing right,
How did you meet your wife, by the way?
My little cousin's 18th birthday.
Okay.
I was that creepy older cousin. No, I was 20. She was 18.
Yeah.
Just she went to school with my cousin.
Okay.
Had her 18th birthday and just met there.
Yeah.
And just hit it off from the get-go.
Yeah,
I was
right.
a cheeky bastard and she seemed to enjoy that. So. But no, she had no motor racing background or anything. So I had to introduce her to it as well.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say she lives and breathes it like I do, but she likes it, so that's good enough.
Yeah.
She's, I remember saying to her, and this is without word of a lie, I was like, look, I don't want to be an asshole, but I've raced something every year of my life since I was 4 years old. Like, this is my hobby, this is my sport, this is my passion, this is all that shit wrapped up in one. So I will never quit racing.
Yeah.
While I'm able to do it, I will never stop. So I don't expect you to love it. Like, you don't have to love it. I don't care if you hate it, but just please don't ever stop me from doing it. Don't ever be that wife sitting going, do you have to race? It's like, yeah, I do. I've always had to race. And, because, and you'd know it yourself, motor racing's probably...
It's a drug.
And it's probably shit more times than it's good.
Yeah.
It's probably kicking you in the nuts more times than not.
Yeah.
So people from the outside go, why do you keep doing this?
Yeah.
Like, you seem really disappointed you blew that motor up, or you ran like shit tonight and you're really mad. Like, why do you keep doing this to yourself? It's like the 1 or 2 times every so often that it's great, it's the fucking best feeling in the world. Like, and it makes up for all the times that it's shit. So, I got that stuff out on the table very early on in the relationship.
You got to find that person that gets it. Yeah, because that was the same with Dan. He thought I wouldn't get it, but then it's like with me, he learnt, because I went from swimming to then into fight sports, but not seriously. I just do it at amateur and learning. But then last year I snapped my wrist doing jiu-jitsu, and others are looking at me going, you need to give this up. And I'm like, no, fuck it. We'll just learn from it and move 100%. On. But that's when he does different things. I'm like, others are like, oh, do you feel this way? I'm like, no, because what am I going to do? Sit there and tell him no when I'm doing all this crazy 100%. Shit? Like,
it probably applies to all sports, doesn't it?
That's it.
It's not exclusive
sport,
to motor racing.
You get it. Yeah. And that's why. But at the same time, we both love what we each do. So we enjoy watching it. So if we're not watching motor racing, I'm putting on fighting or something else.
Yeah, 100%. My younger brother did a stint in MMA.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, go on about that.
Mate, you know what? He's probably a better driver than me.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. As far as naturally gifted, way better than me.
Yeah.
But he's got ADHD, so he can never focus to the end of a race.
Yeah.
He'd be a great drag racer. 4 seconds, focus, done. Like, he's a weapon, mate. When he raced karts, you would never see a better first lap from anybody.
Yeah.
Start him 20th, he'll come out 10th in the first lap. Like, remember at Newcastle when you disappear over the back? He'd disappear and go, let's see where he comes out. It's like, holy shit. He disappeared over the back end of the track like in 18th, came out in 9th. It's like, what did you do down there? He goes, secret. But he could never get to the end of a race without making mistakes and stuff. So, he took up MMA.
I've got to say, he's got to have some patience, because fight sports require a lot of patience.
Man, and I'm so proud of him. Like, he was definitely the wild child between myself and him. Like, he played up when he turned 18, partied a lot, got himself into a lot of trouble, and put on a heap of weight too. Like, ended up pretty big. So he decided one day that hated getting into fights at nightclubs all the time, hated being the size he is, wanted some discipline. So went to and you would know yourself, Ross Pearson, owns Central Coast MMA.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So obviously ex-UFC fighter, been doing it for decades. So rocked up in there once. Did a session with Ross, and I think Ross said to him 12 months later, he goes, mate, I tried to kill you the first session, like as far as his fitness went. Yeah. And he goes, I watched you walk out of there and thought he's never coming back. But nah, Jay went back and lost like 25 kilos, had his first fight. But same thing, like it's brutal. You lost 2 fights in a row, and you have people starting to go, why would you turn up and get bashed? Yeah. You know, and keep doing this. And he's like, because did you see before? Like, and he's hard on himself, but the first fight he lost, man, like he did this spinning back kick on this guy. It looked like he was a fucking Conor McGregor. Wow. And just absolutely laid this guy out. And the guy was a wrestler. Yeah. And so he rushed. Yeah. Tried to ground and pound the guy, and the guy was like, thank fuck, he got on the ground with me and just wrapped him up and choked him out. No. But up until that point, I was like, man, you had it over him. Yeah. It's like, doesn't matter, he beat me. Yeah. And it's like they say, just getting in the ring in any fight sport is you've won in itself. Yeah. Like, I remember the first time I did one fight in Muay Thai, and just getting in that ring, I was just scared shitless with the crowd, let alone having to just deal with the fight. Like, I was just overwhelmed by a crowd, like you guys said when you were at all the other races. But like I was taught from others, if you just get in there and you do it, you've already won that. 100%. So all hats, especially MMA, there's no way I'll do it. I've done Muay Thai, now Jiu-Jitsu, but there is no way you're getting in me in MMA. And how wild is it, like people's different perspective? Like me and my brother get on great, like never used to as kids, but fucking best mates now. And he'll come to a racetrack and watch a sprint car race and I think they're going to crash. And he goes, man, I don't know how you do that. I was like, how the fuck did you get in the ring?
That's right with Brooke.
And stand there opposite with a guy and go, we're going to beat the shit out of each other. Like, my job is to try and kill him until the referee stops me. I was like, man, I went to your first fight and like my heart was pounding, like more nervous than I've ever been in a race car.
I was shaking like that when I was watching, when I was trying to film Brooke for
They're way braver than us.
No way. I'm with your brother. I watch you, especially sprint cars. I remember I love watching it. So I said to Dan, but I watch it and think, how the hell, like?
Yeah. And like, so, and I've got a talented family. Like we have an uncle of mine, his name's Jeff Gerard. So he was big in NRL. Did a lot of selecting for the Blues and stuff like that back in the day. And he always said to us, like me and Dad, he's like, don't know how you guys jump in a car, aim at a corner, aim at a U-turn on dirt at like 180k an hour and just hold it flat out and steer around the corner. Like, how do you not worry that it's going to go straight ahead and into a fence or something? And Dad looks at him and goes, so you were happy to stand in front of blokes that weighed 120, 130 kilos and run at them flat out? But I'm the crazy one. He goes, yep, I guess we'll just have to agree that you're crazy and I'm crazy. Like, You know, I like, you know, at least with sprint cars or motor racing, I've got a helmet on. Yeah. If you said let's fight with helmets on, let's do that.
I think that's why I only did a short. I was too injured to get really in. I don't think the age getting towards 40, my body just starts to give up on itself.
You don't look over 20.
No.
She got pulled up the other day. We were going to her brother's place, and she comes to me like she's going to the grog shop, and she's like to me, she goes, they literally thought I had to get my age certificate.
How good?
My ID. I was like, thank you.
Yeah. She was like, I'm so wrapped. They think I'm young, and I'm like, that's cool. If I go in there, they're going to see my grey hair. And
it just gets worse as you get. Like, I was today in training, and they're like, there's little things. They're like, just do this, and I'm like, you don't understand. My body just doesn't work like that anymore. I'm trying here, but
it's both of our sports are brutal like that. Like as far as motor racing is concerned, like doing martial arts, whatever form of it. You take up. It's like you walk around by 30 or 40 going, I'm sore all the time.
That's it. That's what I was saying. That's why I like jiu-jitsu. I swapped to it, but back to the punching in the head, because I was just like, I don't think I can do this at this age. It's a young person sport. You know, it's a young game. You need to do it. I copped a few and was just like, I can't do this.
But every time she tried a new sport, I'll be the one at home. She's like, can I show you this new move? And I'm like, no. She's like, but I really want to show you what I've learned. I'm like, that's great, but I'll stick to my car racing.
Show you this new move. Dan's taking his clothes. Oh, no, right.
Wrong move.
Wrong move. No, it's fighting in motor racing is hilarious. You can tell who's been around for long enough. Like they're hobbling around. Like I've got fucked knees from motorbikes.
Yeah. Have you got a I've had to go to the physio all the time from the bottom
Lower
of your
back.
back. Lower back. Man, it hurts after a while.
It must be the way we sit in seats.
I could feel. I only when Dan threw me in the go-kart, and then afterwards I was like, "Oh, this is what you're talking about, the lower back."
Yeah,
Go-karts are more brutal than cars, though.
Yeah, there's no
suspension.
Yeah,
no padding in a seat whatsoever. Like at least a sprint car. So have you ever sat in a sprint car seat?
No.
Have you?
Well, no, I haven't.
Full containment in the legend car?
Actually, yeah, I actually sat in the legend car. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So
similar. Yeah.
But like a go-kart, so, your seat holds you to maybe your ribs. The rest of the body's trying to fall out all the time. You go through a bump, like there's no suspension, so just whack, gotcha.
Yeah.
And like then you hop in a sprint car where, the seat hugs your ribs, hugs your knees, and you got shoulder supports, hugs your shoulders, hugs your head.
Yeah.
And then you got big shocks and you got lots of suspension travel. So you go through bumps, you go boing. It's like, oh, that was all right. And I went back into a hire cart for a bucks party the other day and come out battered and bruised. And I thought, yeah, I don't miss the go-karting days. Like, did you ever used to get like the fuel tank bruises in between your knees and stuff? I used to get that, the rib bruises. And I don't know, I had the water-cooled clubman, like the junior clubby, the radiator. I must have always held my elbows at a funny angle because you used to go to a corner and whack the elbow the radiator. It's like, fuck, so brutal.
Yeah, I know.
Give me a car over a go-kart every day of the week. Yeah.
I've still got a cart now that I just use for training for my Formula Ford. Whatever else I do, and it's the exact same thing that you said. It just you come out battered and bruised, and after literally like Brooke said to me, she's like, "Oh, how long do you kart like on a day out there?" And she's expecting like what we did back in the day was 9 to 5 type of thing. Yeah. And I basically train with Bart for like 2 hours and I'm zonked. I think back to my karting days. I think back to my karting days. I'm like, how the fuck did we do it?
Yeah.
3 days a week.
Yeah, 100%.
9 to 5.
Or go to Newcastle or Eastern Creek on a practice day and do 1,000 laps or something.
Yeah,
like,
and over ski jump. Every single time and fucking feel it on your bum.
Good photos though. Always good photos out of that track. You'll have to put that up on the podcast.
Yeah.
Some brilliant photos of the ski jump at Newcastle. Yeah. Just destroying go-karts.
Just totally smashing them and stuff like that.
Yeah. I do miss the karting days. Had a lot of fun. Yeah. A lot of fun.
So how did you become good friends with like Parra and the Tanty family up? Because that is actually pretty cool considering like you've known them since your karting days and you've kept that long-term friendship with both your families now.
Daniel's my best mate. Yeah. So basically, Daniel Field, who's a friend, my best mate, started.
Can pedal a go-kart, by the way. He's still going around.
Yeah. So we started racing speedway karts together. He's a couple of years older than me. So I was in midgets. He was in rookies. Yeah. We can't say midgets anymore, can't we? It's cadets.
Is it midgets even in speedway? Is that?
We're still not politically correct. So fucking midgets. So I was in midgets. He was in rookies, which on the dirt track days, there was never enough karts to make up one division on its own. So midgets and rookies used to race together. Yeah. And his father was a kitchen builder. So when I talk about how we built homes, his dad built the kitchens for my dad. We raced go-karts together. So we just ended up at a track together. Old man was friends with his old man. We were friends and it just never stopped. I started racing black track. He started racing black track too. Traveled around together everywhere. And that kept going till I was old enough to be racing against the Tanty boys and he met Tara and the rest is history. Now they're married, 3 kids. Yeah. Got a brilliant bit of property up on the coast there and we're only there a few weeks ago. They bought some little quad bikes for their kids.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, bring the kids up, let them ride the quad bikes. And that lasted like probably fucking half an hour.
Does Tara still work at Subway or does she?
Yeah, they own a Subway store.
Okay. Do they own more than one now or is it still just one?
Don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like come up, let the kids ride quad bikes around the property.
Yeah.
That lasted like half an hour. Then it was like, all right, boot the kids off. Me and Daniel screaming around the farm on the quad bike. So yeah, having heaps of fun. So yeah, still catch up with them on a weekly basis. Like he crews on the sprint car too. So we work on them every Tuesday night in our factory up on the coast. So yeah, him and Tara and the kids come along. We got a bunch of little plastic trikes for the kids that can tear around the factory on them and we work on the cars. So yeah, it's awesome. They are really like family for us. Like my mum calls Daniel a third son. So yeah, cool. So yeah, we I keep in touch with Daniel. I don't know if you know Kyle Pollock. So he raced speedway karts with his sister and raced wingless sprints as well. And his family's got a deep rooted history in speedway too. Yeah.
They were very passionate when they were at Parramatta race. Like Kyle was, he loved it. Did he just stop just because he wanted to pursue like the family life and that? type of thing, or did you just run out of?
I think he started running his own business, and
Yeah,
you know, you
okay.
just got to start doing adult things. Like
Yeah.
I make no bones about it that I'm super fortunate to be able
Yeah.
to do what I do, and you know, I hate hearing, you know, and Kyle just went down that path, started his own business, when I got to focus on this. So I admire people like that, that as addictive as motor racing is, know when
To stop.
this is best for me to go make a living first, and let's see, you know, in 10 years time, I might be doing well enough to come back and race my own stuff. But, you know, it's not easy. Even a go-kart now would be expensive to run, like the national series there. But I really rate people that do it themselves or know when to call it quits. You know, my father's always said, I'll never go broke for a race car. And it sucks to see people do that. But like Sammy Walsh, Brendan Scorgie, like I rate all those guys. They do it out of their own pocket. They must work their ass off to A, make the money to do it, B, then actually run their own team. And like, you know, I'm stepping up to a point where I will help run the family business and will eventually be running it. So, but I hate this term, like spoilt rich kids racing.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing in the world. And I know the Balboans copped a lot of that when they raced, when they were younger, but looking at any form of motor racing.
Yeah. Well, Roddy works his ass off. Like you're saying about him
100%.
doing like designs for your shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
He does my race cars, right?
Yeah,
Like
he's a weapon.
Yeah. And Toby in his own right with the YouTube channel, he's going to come on the podcast too.
Yeah.
He works his off too. And you know, you work as a tradesman. Do you know what I mean? Like,
exactly. Like
there's
I'm managing building projects, and people spoiled rich kid, you're on dad's money. It's like dad's money it's a family business.
Yeah.
That's a business I will run one day with my cousins.
Yeah.
So do I have to wait till my dad retires before it's like, oh, now you're not a spoiled rich kid? But the money came from the same place.
Yeah.
So like find me anybody under 25 in a sprint car field that's putting their own money into racing it. And there is guys that do it. And like I said, I rate that. That's awesome. But majority of the kids out there, or majority of people under 25 are doing it on mum and dad's money. And I'm sure that's the same as blackjack.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. That's in everything. Because you can't, like, who's made all that money by the time they're 25?
Yeah,
like,
and that's the harsh reality of motor racing. It's so expensive.
Yeah.
The amount of people that do that is minuscule. That's your 1%.
Yeah.
But like, you know, Jackson Delamont, you know, Jordan Brazier, the Dumsney family, you know, and I think everybody in some way, shape or form, even if they are young, puts either, you know, a financial contribution to it or works their ass off in the family business to do it, or, you know, one way or another, they're making a contribution. Nobody's sitting there with a silver spoon in their mouth. Mum and dad just go, here's a race car. Don't work on it. Don't work for it. Don't do this. So I really hate that term, you know, spoiled rich kids, because you could apply that to half the field, really.
Well, the Dumsey brothers, and they work for Max when they're not racing on the Hoosier tyre business, and they come to the black track. Do you know what I mean?
And I
to
think
sell tyres.
Matt's a carpenter too.
Yeah.
Mr. D Carpentry. I remember talking to Michaela years ago.
Yeah.
And again, it's none of my business, but I think they had to take a certain amount of money to Max before he would go, all right, let's go racing.
Yeah, right.
So maybe he, for argument's sake, he might have funded half of it or whatever. But yeah, I don't think anybody's gone racing for nothing.
That's kind of what Jeff did to you. If you wanted to be in the go-kart, he said to Dan, you've got to go out when you were in your teens, late teens.
Yeah.
Go at work, and you worked as a promoter, and then you had to go and find that cash, bring it all in, and then go, okay,
exactly.
I'm
I had to
fronting.
sell my go-kart stuff, which he'd bought, and then I had to find the other half to buy a Formula Ford. And then ever since then, I've flipped Formula Fords to keep racing, basically.
Yeah, and so like, maybe you didn't pay, obviously you didn't pay the whole budget.
Yeah.
But symbolically, I guess, your dad said, you got to bring me something to show me you want to do this, that you've worked for this. And I think most people are like that. So yeah, I hate that phrase getting thrown around. It's just a way for people on social media to shit on a driver they don't like, basically. You know, but yeah, that's the reality of motor racing, isn't it? It's expensive. Nobody's doing it by themselves. You know. But yeah.
Before we get to the segments, I want to ask you one thing.
Yeah.
What do you think of Kyle Larson racing the Indy 500 this year?
Would you ever put it past him to win it?
I don't know. I think he dead set could get in the top three.
Mate,
I rate him hard. Like he's like, do you know what I mean? He hops in anything, and there was over 2020 speculation that he'd even have a go in an F1 car. I was wrapped.
I was hoping for that.
Yeah.
So I've spoken to a lot of black track friends.
Yeah.
And you know, probably the great thing about motor racing at the moment is there's a lot of changeover, like a lot of crossover, like you say, V8 supercar drivers racing. So heaps of people from karts at the track at the speedway and vice versa. So you can speak to black track guys now and like, man, have you watched Kyle Larson drive a kart? They're like, yes, unbelievable. Like he can drive, a 1.5 tons of NASCAR one week, hop into a 400 kilo midget the next week, and a 600 kilo sprint car the next week, and then a dirt late model.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
it's unbelievable.
You could give him any car with rubber on all four corners, and he'll drive it. And he's a weapon. He picks it up so quick. And
do you see his late model races that he does? He's a nutcase. Did you see the Darlington thing?
Yeah, and like the local late model guys, like when he started, like he ain't going to do shit.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to wipe the floor with him, and he just went and blitzed him. I was like, yes. I was quietly hoping for it to happen.
You know the Ross Chastain game pass that they were talking. Have you ever seen the Martinsville thing? How Ross Chastain goes around the outside and he goes on the wall rider?
How awesome was that? Yeah.
So you know where that started from? I was watching a video on this because I'm obsessed with American racing. Yeah. So Kyle Larson in 2020 tried it before he got all that thing happened. Well, 2019 or something. Anyway, he tried to ride the wall at Darlington and he nearly got there, but he didn't pass Denny Hamlin.
Yeah.
So Ross Chastain he was the car literally behind Kyle Larson.
So he had that in the memory bank.
And he left that in the memory bank and he thought, I'm going to try it at Martinsville and see if it works. Yeah. And what happened? He tried it at Martinsville and he went around and he broke the lap record. Yeah. He rode the wall.
Best thing ever.
Yeah. I reckon the best video of that was, have you seen the one where they've got all the reactions from the spotters on the radio to the other teams?
Yeah, I seen that video.
And they're like, you're clear. And then the spotter's like, what the fuck? And he's like, and you can tell everyone's just like, is that yep, well, that worked. And everyone's like, okay. And yeah, I love that video. That's got to be the highlight of NASCAR, doesn't it, for that season. But I truly think, like, forget Formula One and all that, I would not put it past Kyle Larson to be the most naturally talented driver on the planet right now. And there'd be a lot of Formula One fanboys saying, bullshit, not a chance. Formula One's a be all and end all. And it is. There's no debating that. But I've never seen somebody change disciplines so quickly, so frequently, and pick it up like he's been in the seat for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about you, but I think if you did put him in a Formula One car,
he would do it.
He would do it. And I think after 3 or 4 race meetings, he would be not looking out of place, put it that way.
I agree.
So what do I think about him in an Indy car? He's capable.
Yeah.
Scariest thing about IndyCar for me is what it does to drivers when they wreck on ovals.
Yeah.
Like, my biggest thing would be like, don't take a talent like that, and ruin his career. So
that's the hard thing with the Indy 500. They're big crashes.
Scares the shit out. Like, it's probably one thing you'd never catch me in.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody said he's a NASCAR, he's a Formula One. Like, there's no driver in the world that wouldn't jump at that opportunity.
Yeah.
But if somebody said to me, do you want to drive an Indy car? Yeah, sweet. Do you want to do it at the Indy 500? No, I think I'll pass on that. I think we'll go race at a road course or something, but not the circles. No.
I find the qualifying days at the Indy 500 really interesting. If you watch like the old documentaries on Indy 500, how they're trying to out-qualify each other, there's guys who are like double footing on the accelerator to get past the mile per hour mark. Yeah. It is fucking insane. And as you said, if they crash there, because they've got their 2 feet on one pedal.
Yeah.
Fuck me. Like, you do not want to have an accident there.
Yeah. No thanks.
Yeah.
I love my motor racing, but that's one thing. No thanks. Yeah. No, thank you. But I hope he does well. Yeah. And I think he can. Yeah. I wouldn't put it past him to come out with an upset, but stranger things have happened.
So, Alex, as we wind up this podcast, I've got 2 segments for you. Now, only on the rare occasion I bring up 2 segments, and I thought Brooke was the same. Alex is a great guy to have 2 segments. So the first one's called Hooley's Hot Seat.
Shit.
And
then you're going to have to skip over the first question because we've already talked about this.
Have we?
Yeah, the World of Outlaws problems with the
visas. I can talk shit really well until somebody puts me on the spot and says I do it quickly. It's,
well, we can talk about it again just for the point of it being...
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, just a quick answers for this one.
I haven't seen these parts of your podcast, by the way.
Oh, okay.
No, the segment.
You've seen the Fast 5, though. That was posted recently.
No.
Okay.
You're really putting me out here. Okay, cool.
All good.
I'm down.
First one is, what were your thoughts on the visa problems with the Outlaws struggling to race in Australia? What were your just brief thoughts on this one?
Brief thoughts? I think there was some paperwork that wasn't filled in correctly.
Yeah, okay.
You're not here.
From America side or Australia side?
Well, wouldn't the driver be filling out his own visa paperwork?
Yeah, true.
Whoever did it, you're not here for a holiday.
Yeah, okay. All right, well,
we can say that, but if you're going to take home $50,000 from the Classic, you weren't holidaying. Yeah. You were working.
Yeah. Question number 2. What really happened back at Parramatta all those years ago when Tony Stewart and Donny Schatz packed their bags and never came back to Sydney?
Oh,
I knew you'd love this
oh,
one.
that's spicy. I was like a 16-year-old kid on the hill.
Yeah, see, that's why it's called Hooley's Hot Seat.
Yeah. I heard Tony Stewart told one of the owners back then, Brett Stewart.
Yeah,
I think
Brett Morris.
Brett Morris. Not Brett
Yeah.
Stewart, Brett Morris. That your track's shit and I could prepare it better than you.
Yeah.
And Brett said, fine, get on the fucking grader. And Tony pegged his helmet at him.
Yeah, right.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Whether there's any truth behind that, no idea. But
Yeah.
that's what I heard.
Yeah. And then Donny and that went to Queensland or whatever else.
Yeah, Donny did what Donny was told.
Yeah. All right. Number 3, and Brooke and I were keen for this one.
Oh, yeah.
Who's the alias behind the keyboard racer on Facebook?
Oh, shit.
My question is it Mr. Orr?
Is it?
No. I've been compared to Virat Kohli on the cricketer on there. Oh, how good is a keyboard
It's
racer?
fucking
mate?
funny as. It's great.
My pick?
Yeah.
Andy Rogers.
Andy Rogers. Who's Andy Rogers?
Andy Rogers cruise on cars down in South Australia.
Okay.
Intelligent, quick-witted dude.
Yeah.
I think he's got the brains for it, yeah.
Yeah, you reckon
Yeah,
it's him?
I reckon so.
And he scouts even like other tracks around Australia to put that content up.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. You reckon it's him?
I reckon so.
Because people are asking for his autograph at Warrnambool, basically. Did you see that? You got to go in the comments.
And like the classic bingo.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that.
I've
Yes,
seen that.
I did that. I love that. What was the one about picking like lettuce and shit
Yeah.
like that
Oh,
for the
yeah.
guys? Or yeah.
Or like when Wade tastes the clays. So
Yeah,
see
yeah.
when the commentators get on board with it.
Have a JD for certain things. And,
Yeah, there was one. I think the keyboard racer was behind encouraging somebody to get him to say over the microphone the old if you've got a car parked, you're blocking an exit.
Yeah.
Plate NE1 for ABJ.
Yep.
NE1 for a blowjob. Yeah, so yeah, the keyboard racer is awesome. Big fan.
He's pumping up the Adar boys at the moment. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
It's the peak specimen.
Oh, but Alex is glorious. Look at that! Look at that mullet.
I know. By the way, people do give him shit, and Toby said this in the comments, but he's actually turning into a decent peddler right
Yeah,
now.
I was on board with that too.
Yeah.
I got a lot of time for the Adards.
Yeah.
You know,
They're going to come in here too, by the way. So.
yeah, cool.
We've had Mark on here.
Yeah, Mark's
Yeah.
the first one that
Yeah,
came.
yeah. So Mark's, I think his cousin's with Pete or something like
Yeah,
that, or
yeah.
Pete's his uncle.
Pete's
or
his,
something.
his brother,
yeah.
actually, I think. From anyway.
There's a relation there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mark's a wanker with his Ford. Tell him I said that. I'm not a Ford fan in sprint
Yeah,
cars.
yeah.
Fucking Chevs all the way.
Yeah.
Nah, Mark's cool.
But the adult brothers are doing really well.
Yeah, and you know what? They're another pair of kids that are doing it on their own.
Yeah.
Like Alex, we picked up some stuff for them from Toowoomba. So Alex met me at our factory and we got talking about work. Like he's been talking about doing 15-hour days. Like he's sort of running the factory there. And you know, if people don't turn up for a shift, he's the guy there that covers all that stuff.
Yeah, right.
And then has to go and race.
And this is
all
the
that.
This is the chickens.
Yeah, the Supreme Poultry. So, again, people I rate who work hard, do it themselves, young guys having a crack, and you know, everybody young in sprint cars is going to crash a bit. But Alex, I would say, has been most improved this whole season at Eastern Creek. Actually, there's a heap of guys that are most improved, but Alex is probably my pick. Jesse's always been fast, but his consistency has probably improved a lot.
Yep.
But like, there's guys like Kyle Cornt, Luke Sturton. There's guys that, to be brutally honest, when I finished racing before COVID, I probably would have expected to beat every night.
Okay.
When I come back at the end of February, I'm going to be going like, I'm going to have my hands full.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys I probably would have beaten beforehand that I'm not going to beat for a while.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But no, great family, the Addards. I think Alex is most improved this season.
Yeah. Question number 4 on Hooley's Hot Seat, and many people will comment on this hopefully on the podcast. What's your thoughts on the concussion device that's not approved in Sprint Cars / Motorsports Australia?
Why'd you do that?
Because I can relate this back to the keyboard raiser. His relation to it was an egg and a spoon race.
So I actually had, this won't make me popular. I was partially testing that device before it was implemented.
Yep.
So I had Mark Richards, who is the president of the New South Wales Sprintcar Association.
Yep.
Stood up at a driver's briefing, said basically, and the guts of it is insurance companies for our sport have considered us high risk for head injury. They need us to have a regulation in place for concussion.
Yep.
A record or something to indicate that we're doing something about head injuries in sports. NFL's doing it. MMA, like you've got mandatory suspensions and stuff. We have nothing.
Yep.
And we're lagging behind motorsport and the rest of the world. So here's a device. Is anybody willing to test it? And I was at driver's briefing and went, yeah, I'm big on I'm big on head injury. So, yep, I'll test it. It came in. It's a little, obviously you've seen the device.
Yep.
It's double-sided tape. It's a little 3M tape. Stick it on your helmet and off you go. He goes, when you have a crash, if this goes off, I just want to come and inspect it, yada, yada, yada. I thought it was a great idea.
Yep.
I didn't know the implications that have since come out. I never had it. I had 3 of them on the back of my helmet.
Yeah, 3.
Because we're in the testing stage. Now, he had 16 drivers do it, so these guys are probably quiet because they don't want to get backlash for probably helping implement it.
Yeah, okay.
But there were 16 of us across the country. One of them, actually, the only 2 that went off in a whole season over 16 drivers was myself and Troy Little, both at Eastern Creek.
Yep.
Troy spun out on lap 1 of an A main.
Yeah, spun out, not flipped.
Spun out in position 4 and had the whole field collect him flat out.
Yeah, oh, okay, yeah.
So that set off the indicator. And I actually, at the end of last season, had a lump of clay come up and smash my helmet.
Yep.
Got over the rock screen and came in and belted the helmet, pushed it back into my nose, smashed my nose across my face. Yep. Tried to tear the helmet off my head.
Yeah. Did you break your nose or anything or not? Or was it just
I think so, because I got a big hook in my nose.
Yeah, okay.
Never officially. Yeah. I don't know, but I think I have. Yeah. I snore a lot more now. I'm almost certain I did.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, all the other guys, and there was one guy that Mark told me actually flipped 3 times in the space of that season, never set one off.
Wow.
Ooh.
So it's strange to me now that there's so many stories coming out of the woodwork of people going, mine came in the box broken, or I dropped my helmet and it broke. I dropped my helmet with 3 of them on multiple times, didn't break. So, but again, when you're importing a product and you give 16 of them out, you know, if you're going to have 10% of them fail, that's 1.6. If you put 200 of them out there, you're going to get, 10% of them is 10. So as you put more of them out there, you're going to get more faults and stuff. Do I believe every story I've heard? No. No, there seems to be a new guy every week saying that they're fucking shit. Yeah.
When you crashed though, did their medical come up and do the eyes thing with you and all that?
Yeah.
Because I've never had it obviously in my sport, but I get concussion tested as well, right?
Yeah.
So when you had that go off, did they come and check you out?
Yes. So the idea of that was if that goes off, it's a mandatory medical centre check.
Yeah.
So we have a medical centre at the track and you get checked over for concussion. On the night, they cleared me of concussion. They went, no, you're fine. It might be mild, but we think you're fine. So that was all good. Then you'd have to go to a doctor and there's a checklist of like a head injury assessment that your GP has to do before you can race again. So I like the idea. It has to happen. Since learning that bell and all that are like, not a chance. You stick this to your helmet. It's now void of all warranty and responsibility on our behalf. We've got to take them off.
Yeah, okay.
You cannot run another race meeting like that.
Yeah.
And as much as I'm for them and I was part of the testing process, I would be rocking up to the classic at driver's briefing saying, we're all taking these off. So you either have a meeting or you don't, because there's 118 drivers here that are taking them off the car.
Yeah.
Realistically, like we've got your helmet down here and I don't know what everybody can see on the podcast, but that winglet, the clear winglet behind your helmet, I can't see how if we stuck it on that would structurally affect the helmet.
Yeah, right. Well, because that's an extra plastic part of the...
Yeah, so if I stick it to that, I don't see how that can affect the helmet. And realistically, that's like other people...
Point.
Well, that's where I've stuck it on my helmet.
Yeah.
Because I've got a Bell GTX and it has a similar winglet off the back. So I understand like the story of Michael Schumacher that, the GoPro mount may have been what compromised the helmet. I get that. I think realistically, is it more helmet manufacturers probably covering their ass just in case? Yeah. So
does this also come down to like, should the helmet manufacturers be working with the manufacturers for these to build them into the helmets?
I agree. That's
so they're not, you know what I mean? Like they're actually in between the padding and that, and so they're not actually ever going to hurt the head. We've got to go back to scratch because trying to attach things onto these things is clearly not working.
Well, here's the question I have. They won't do it because it hasn't been homologated or tested. So there's no reason that we can't get this device tested and say, actually, it doesn't affect the helmet. You're right to use them. Yep. The fact that there's no data on that is the only reason they're saying no, from my understanding. I don't know. There's lots of parts to that story. I can't give you a quick answer on it.
Yeah.
I believe we need to have some recording of head injury assessment. At the track, we need it. This clearly wasn't the right way. If I'd known that was going to void the warranty on my helmet, I probably wouldn't have put it on.
Yeah.
So... in essence, it was a good idea. In implementation, no, it wasn't done properly. Yep. The midgets in America apparently have a rechargeable one. It attaches to your seat.
Yep.
Same thing. If it goes off on the seat, all right, you need to be assessed for head injury, but it's not on the helmet.
Yeah, right.
So, and if it goes off, like let's say, I think it's a light. It's green, turns red.
Yep.
Our ones are actually a bit of powder in a canister.
Okay.
Held in by ball bearings and springs.
Yep.
Once it gets to a certain pressure, the ball bearing breaks the canister and the powder disperses in this little clear case.
Oh, that's smart.
So, yeah, there is other options out there. So potentially Sprint Car Control Council of Australia should have gone down a different path, maybe a more tried and tested path, because this is not used in any other motor racing to my knowledge. So they should have gone to the FIA maybe or USAC, which is a governing body for the midgets in America, and said, what are you guys using? And everybody says that and they're quick to say that, but to play the devil's advocate, if they turned around and said, yeah, we spoke to fucking the FIA, they've got this device which is going to cost you all $5,000 instead of $100 for that. Well, half the sprint car field would be erupting anyway because we're a grassroots sport. You're going to send me broke. So how do you... People want everything.
Yeah.
I always like to play the devil's advocate. It's implemented wrong, but we need something like that and it needs to be cost effective. So they're going to have to do something working forward.
Yeah.
But like Cam Waters came out and said like... we shouldn't be doing this, and I agree with him now. Even though I was on board with it, we shouldn't be doing it.
Because they also thought beyond, had you heard, like you were mentioning, like in fight sports, there's a certain amount of KOs or TKOs you cop, and then you're out for a certain amount of time because there's all that in. Had they thought about how many times if you guys got a certain amount of hits, was it 1, 2, 3 hits and you needed to be out for a while, or had they even gone that far? Or
I don't think so. So I think the buck, this sounds bad, but I think the buck was then passed on to your GP.
Yeah.
All they did is said, our device has alerted us that you've had an impact of 100 Gs.
Yeah, right.
We think that this requires you to be assessed.
Yep.
We haven't said that you're concussed. All we're saying is go get assessed by a medical expert. Now it's up to them to determine if you're right to come back.
Yeah.
So basically it's our organisation going, we just need to identify the risk of injury and then...
Yeah, because basically you could go to any dodgy GP and get yourself signed off,
100%.
Really. You know what I mean? Like, that's not, it's kind of like, then they're like, but like you said, they're just wiping themselves off the problem.
Yeah, so I actually had the opposite problem though.
Yep.
Took the form to the GP and they're like, fuck that, I'm not touching it.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to be, because they're all aware of head injuries in sports now.
Yeah, you're going to have two extremes, the ones who don't give a shit and then the ones who really care and are worried about what do we do.
They don't want their license, like their medical practitioner's license on the back of, oh, he jumped in a car and now he's dead.
Yeah.
I was the one who said he's good to race again. They don't want that responsibility. So it's a sticky situation. I don't know the answer to it.
Yeah.
We're halfway there.
Yeah.
Implement something, do it better.
Yeah. Brooke, you've got this last one.
Oh, okay. Where are we at? So number 5, should the rest of Australia follow Western Australia and put sprint cars back on mainstream TV?
I was going to interrupt you and just say yes.
Yes,
the minute you said, should the rest of the country follow Western Australia? Yes.
When I'm reading this question, I'm like, do I have to?
In every aspect, they should follow Western Australia. Western Australia has their tyre situation under control.
As well?
They saw the writing on the wall last year, and from what I believe, they've got stock.
Why doesn't the east side of Australia work with the west into the sprint? Like,
it might as well be different countries.
I was about to say, you do know they're a different country, Dan. They're Perthalia.
Yeah, I love everything they're doing. I would love to race the Australian title over there, but that would be stupid of me to arrive there on the 10th of February having raced 0 this season. But man, they got the best track over there. Like Perth Motorplex is insane.
Yeah.
They're promoting themselves well.
Yeah.
They've got their tyre situation under control. Like what's not to like about what they're doing?
God, it's not even there. We'd had Tom Williamson on, the top coach for go-karting to supercars, and he's sending all his team to WA to train a couple of times
Formula
a year.
Ford. Do you know what I mean?
It's the only way to train.
Over there in Barbagallo, you can go there and Tom can go out on the track and no, you can't do this at Sydney Motorsport Park, by the way, and he can point to that part of the track and say, hit this corner at this apex. Do you know what I mean? But that's because it's like WA's got their own rules, the way that they do things. It's a lot more looser. Looks a lot more fun.
Yeah. I'm going to use the most overused phrase that you've probably seen on Facebook and shit.
Yeah.
We are the nanny state.
Yeah.
We are overgoverned, overregulated.
Yeah.
Like, fuck. Yeah. Take me back.
Everything's apartments.
America does a lot wrong.
Yeah.
But I do like the survival of the fittest type of theory.
My dad always says that. He goes, we need the Darwin's theory.
Darwinism, mate.
We need this back.
Like, there's one thing America does is like, you're free to do what you fucking want. If you're a dumbass, you die.
He always jokes to me because he's in trades, and like you would have seen all the OH&S around things about the windows now having to be sealed up at a certain height. So he's like, just rip that shit open. If they're meant to go, they're meant to go.
100%. Natural selection. No. And like I think Perth has. Don't hold me to it. I think they have midweek practice nights at the Motorplex.
Oh, really?
At times. Maybe not consistently through the whole season, but I know there's dedicated practice nights.
Yeah.
We get one at the start of the season in New South Wales.
That's exactly what I said to Dan. How, if you want to try a sprint car, do you even try? I can see why SVG went to New Zealand to try and learn without, everyone there watching him trying to learn, because it's like any sport. You need a chance without everyone screaming at you going, ha ha, look at you. It's like give me a go.
It's the best and worst part about sprint car racing.
Yeah.
And I mean that.
Yeah.
The best part about it is like you could see guys in go-karts that probably weren't naturally talented.
Yeah.
But just went and did thousands of laps a week practicing.
Yeah.
Dad took them there. They probably did more than a 40-hour work week at the track, and they got good. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to shit on people who put in the hard work instead of natural talent.
Yep.
The beauty of sprint cars is you don't get that opportunity. You can hire the track, but probably like hiring Sydney Motorsport Park exclusively. It's expensive.
20 grand or something.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
So basically, the best and worst part is like, the worst part is you don't get the ability to bring yourself up to speed as a new guy. You get thrown in the deep end. The best part, who was the best guy on the night.
Yeah.
It wasn't the guy that turned up through the week and did 1,000 laps.
Yeah.
You all turn up. You all saw the track an hour ago. Who can set the car up the best? Who can adapt to it the best?
Yeah.
That's the best.
On top of that, sprint car, all the speedway changes over the night due to the promoters.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Like they throw in different styles of racing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, best and worst part about it is that you don't have the practice, but Perth does give people the opportunity to practice.
Yeah.
So, they're better than us.
Yeah.
In how they're running it at the moment, in every sense of the word.
Yep.
That's not very patriotic of me for New South Wales.
It is what it is. If we can try and win the State of Origin and Rugby League, that'd be good.
That'd fucking make me a bit happier.
Yeah.
But
Actually, going on, before we go into the Fast Five, which is our ending segment, I've got to ask about, obviously you said, was it your uncle or was involved in Rugby League? Because I'm a huge league fan, right? It's on the thing.
You're not going to ask me questions about it because I don't know Rugby League.
Oh, so
I don't know
do you
shit.
Do you follow any team or anything? No?
No, I'm obliged to say the Panthers because my wife is Maltese and Italian, has a very big family. They were all based in Penrith years ago. So I arrived and they're like, who do you follow in the NRL? I was like, looked at my eyes. She's like, Penrith. Yeah, Penrith. Been a Penrith boy my whole life. Yeah. Good man. So I follow Penrith.
Yeah, I was expecting you to say like Newcastle Knights or something. That's the North
Sydney Bears.
Yeah, I'm nostalgic all
We
around.
almost had the Central Coast Bears for a while there too.
I was hoping that would actually happen.
Yeah.
And our theme for our show is #RIP North Sydney Bears.
I do want them to return, but it's very, again, the nanny state and the whole political red tape. But same thing in motorsport and rugby league, red tape and whatnot.
Like Formula One and Andretti at the moment.
Oh, that's ridiculous. That's actually a good subject that you brought up then. That's crazy. He's got much.
All night.
Yeah, no, he's got so much money and they're not letting him in. Anyway.
Because they don't want to filter theirs.
Yeah.
Which is shit.
Yeah. Crazy.
I'd rather see 40 Formula One go into the first corner than 20.
Yeah, I agree.
Like
I know.
Same as supercars.
I know. I was about to bring that up too.
Now, this is a subject I don't know shit about, but is that what Peter Adderton's sort of advocating for?
We want him on to be able to like really just put it out there. Cause,
He'd be like Tony, wouldn't he?
I don't know if you've seen his stuff on like Instagram and that, but he is blatantly outright just like,
because he wants in, like,
100%.
Forgive my ignorance, but he
like
wants in.
Yeah. He's like Andretti but supercars.
He wants in, but nobody will let him in.
Yeah, and that's why he's in the Bathurst 12
hour.
They're in, but he's getting the shits. Like he puts on the 12 hours got. Hang on, how many? The 28
cars or something.
And what do we got? Like 24, 26 in supercars. He's like, I'm sorry, so you can fit another 2 in the grid for that, but you won't allow me into supercars.
Mind you, I'm racing at that same event with 50 Formula Fords. You know what I mean?
Go figure. And like, it wasn't Bathurst of the days of old. Yeah. There was 45 cars on the grid and stuff like that when you had privateer teams like
and you'd have to lap them because they didn't have the budget or what.
Yeah. And that was the proper, like they used to drive the race car to the track.
Yeah. But that's why
what wins on Sunday sells on Monday. Like those days where they opened it up and said,
that's why I think sprint cars is getting popular again because it's still that authentic racing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Authentic is the best word for sprint cars.
Yeah.
You haven't got any bullshit with electronics or making racing difficult. It's so stripped back. It's so basic, but it's the best parts of motor racing in general. It's loud, fucking loud. Like we're not trying to appease the rest of the world, which might bite us in the ass in the next 10 years. But for now, it's loud.
Yeah.
It's fast. It is simple. Mm-hmm. It's accessible for anybody who's got the budget. There is no fucking wall up to make sure that you can't do that or the boys club is going to prevent you. It's just how it's pure. It's what motor racing should be across the board.
Yeah. And there's a lot of good girls coming through Speedway as well, by the way. 100%. Out of all the motorsports, the only like decent bunch of girls that are following through is, as you said, the Chilli Bowl. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? They're all coming through that route because it's cheaper, easier, and authentic. And
it's accessible. And more so in America than Australia. But if they want to race 80 or 90 times a year, they can do that. Yeah. And they can get good. Mm. There's no there's no shortened calendars. There's no boys club where they're going to, if we all get together, we'll make sure this guy can't get in. Whether you love or hate Peter Adderton, I don't believe in blocking any potential team coming to the sport. It's only going to be good for the sport.
Well, Tony, back in, as you were saying, season 1, he got me views because he was so outspoken. And I reckon Peter Adderton would probably be that guest if I had him on here and like that.
Yeah, and it even goes back to what we spoke about earlier, whether you want to be the robotic professionalism or do you want characters. Yeah. I think within reason, characters are great for any sport.
That's what we say.
Need them, even 100%. If they play the villain.
Yeah, that's exactly what we've said. I've said to Dan, I'd love to be able to go to the TAR. We need more around, like you used to have what we were speaking about in Speedway, with the big pictures of each of the drivers there. Yeah. People know who's there. You got more character. And then that's what's good about like the NASCAR. I know some things get extreme, but you've got those characters. Like
Kyle Busch plays the villain.
And he plays that deadpan, I don't give a shit. Yeah. Then you got Bubba Wallace who's making strides in what, like, the differences he's making to someone as colour being on that track and what the things he's changed there are pretty incredible, like getting rid of that flag and that. Yeah. But you've got all these people doing different things and they're allowed to speak their mind. I think that's the other thing, they're allowing them, whereas you watch some of the supercars, I feel like others are like to us, some will be allowed to talk, it depends on their teams, others they won't, they'll be red taped, and it's a very much like, we joke sometimes, I'm like, it's more of a potato character I'm getting on it. I'm like, please speak. And then you're hearing behind closed doors from others, they're like, they're wild, they're great characters. If you talk to them, they're just so free. But at the moment, they're not allowed, they're contractually bound not to. And
like Wade Orr just said to me once, he goes, I don't care if people want to play the villain. If you've got broad enough shoulders to cop criticism from fans because they only see on the outside, they don't know you're a good guy. But if you want to play the villain, that's great for business too.
Yeah, Gary Brazier.
We need the heels. The heels of WWE.
Yeah, 100%. But like Gary Brazier, he quite often played the villain. Yeah. Kyle Busch. Yeah. Bubba Wallace is probably a villain in a lot of people's stories. You know, Kyle Larson fans hate Bubba Wallace a lot of the time because, in their mind, they're the reason that, a slip of the tongue got him banned, which,
is what it is.
It doesn't matter what.
2020 was a weird year.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what your view is on that, but they're polarizing.
Yeah.
They get pros and cons, and that's fine. Does anybody really believe Kyle Busch is that much of an asshole behind closed doors? No, not for a second. Yeah. I don't believe Gary Brazier is an asshole. I like the Braz. He's cool. But you need characters. You need to, upset the fans, make them happy, whatever.
Yeah, that's why
engage them.
That's why I've got this podcast to bring guys on like yourself, so they can see, beyond the helmet. Basically, is our tagline.
And I've probably said some things that have upset a promoter or two, but fuck.
Oh,
you can't.
But everyone's got opinions,
and you want to hear that, don't you? Yeah, 100%.
There's two sides to everything as well, and not everyone's. Also, the fans are seeing what it's like to be in the driver's seat, or to be in somebody else's seat, what you're having to deal with. So it's sometimes, like we've said, that people are at home watching aren't having to deal with all of this, so it can be a lot easier. And we've heard from the supercar drivers who've said they've had a lot of shit thrown at them from fans and that, but they're not there to see why, or they sometimes they can't then speak out on it because they're being blocked from speaking. So
SVG is probably another one playing the villain. Yeah, I'm not sure if he likes to or whether he wants to, but the harsh reality is when you wipe the floor with everybody you're a pretty aggressive driver, you're going to be the villain. Yeah, and I've heard from people through contacts who have been in the supercar pits, and they're like, he's actually one of the nicer guys walking around.
Yeah, that's what we've heard. Yeah.
Like,
he's pretty chill.
Same as Jamie Whincup. I don't ever think he was that much of an arsehole.
Yeah. It's because when they start to win, they get the villain thing.
Oh,
everybody gets that. Competitive. That's it. People are like, you're an arsehole because you're competitive. It's like, well, it's a you're playing it in essence a game or a sport, whatever. Yeah. You're there to win. Of course, you're going to do what it takes.
Exactly. Even down to our level. Call me arrogant, but I truly believe every time I turn up to a racetrack, I have a chance of winning if I do everything right.
Yeah,
if I didn't think that, why would you fucking do it?
Yeah, I know.
Same as fighting.
Well,
if you're going to put yourself on the line, but you truly didn't believe you were going to win, why would you do it?
Well, hey, Mikey just got all that shit I was reading online. There was a lot of the other UFC fighters and everyone posting about it because there's like, why did he hurt that guy's leg? And it's like, well, he was actually looking at the ref like, what the fuck is the dude going to tap?
Stop it.
Like, but the thing was, it's a sport, and if he doesn't stop him and he does let go, well, then he can grab him and submit him. And
100%.
at the end of the day, it's a fight sport. When you walk in, walk in to take the other person out.
Yeah,
that's the name 100%. Of the game.
It's a dog-eat-dog world in all forms of sports at a competitive level.
Yeah.
If you're going to bash somebody for being ultra competitive, what are you watching?
That's it.
What are you watching for?
Yeah.
If anything, learn from them, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in I hate the participation trophy type of concept.
God, we didn't have that. I feel like because I'm about 7 years older.
Yeah.
We missed the generation of the participation. You either got first, second, or third, and that's it.
And we're a funny generation. Like I'm 30 this year, so I was born in '93. So I was like,
did you have the participation stuff at school?
No, I was like the tail end, just after me. But I didn't have a mobile phone till I was 13 or something.
Yeah.
And even then it was still the old keypad Nokia. The iPhone didn't come out till I was 17 or 18 or something.
Yeah, okay, yep.
So, and the iPod was revolutionary.
Yeah, and I can still remember 3 of my best mates' home phone numbers, because if you wanted to hang out with your mates after school, you had to pick up the home phone, ring their mum, can I come over?
Yep.
Hop on your push bike and ride up the street. It's crazy how the world's changed, but getting that back to motorsport is we grew up in an era where competitiveness was that's working hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You praise the kid that beat the shit out of everybody in every sport because he worked his ass off.
Yeah.
He's talented and he works hard. Now we've got people who are criticising, if you're witnessing greatness, for argument's sake, SVG, didn't he just break the record for the most wins in one season?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah. And Kyle Larson again, you know what I mean? When he was on fire before the new car, you know what I mean? Before they bring that.
It's just why would you shit on that? You're witnessing greatness. And
Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
Verstappen even now, now.
Yeah, 100%.
They're always looking for a villain. And I think some of it is also coming from a mixture of if you look at Formula One, Drive to Survive, this reality TV bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan of reality TV.
Yeah.
I really struggle to be a part of it.
TV.
I watch now some of it just because if we're going to comment on, I said to Dan on this show on Drive to Survive, I've got to say, well, I did watch it, so I can, this is why it's shit.
It's your homework. Yeah. Let's put it that way. I don't want to do it, but it's there.
It's painful, but it's there. But I don't watch any of the others. But then social media. So a lot of people, I don't know, they're getting to frenzies and things like that we didn't grow up with. So it was either first, second, or third, or whatever it was. Yeah. But then now it's I can comment on this, I can comment on that. But it's all commentary from people who've never even been in the seat. Yeah.
If you were the villain at the track, whether it was Formula One or sprint cars and everything in between, the criticism you cop would be booze at the track.
Yeah.
But once you went home, that's it.
Yeah.
You don't hear it.
I know, yeah.
Now you go home, open Facebook, and you got 100 people shitting on you.
Well, you got to raise kids now learning and trying to understand what they're going to come home with school, with all of that stuff following them. Because I can't imagine coming home from school with the shit that would come through on all these different, we're dealing with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and God knows what'll be there in 10, 12 years when they're there. But
hopefully less.
Yeah.
But that's not
We're secretly hoping they'll implode, but But you know what I mean? They've got to deal with this now, whereas our parents were teaching us about no drugs, no alcohol, or
Get home before the street light comes on.
Yeah. And that was legitimately my rule. My best mate lived 2 k's away from us. He used to ride the push bike, and it was be home before dark.
Yeah.
Cool. I remember literally coming home fuck, street lights are on, fast as I could. But I loved growing up in that era. I think we're all better for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a I think it was Dana White. I was scrolling through Insta and just saw a video, and he's I'm telling my children, you're growing up in a world of pansies. If you are even remotely a savage in this world, you're going to be some of the most successful people in the world.
Yeah.
Because we grew up in a world where you got your ass kicked and life was probably a bit harder.
Yeah.
Life wasn't hard for us, but you still had...
You had the wooden spoon.
Yeah, you had some old school parenting. And these new kids are growing up in a world that's padded.
Yeah.
And they're protected from everything. And
because social media's given their basically everyone a word to say on the internet.
And you'll always find people who will agree with you, even if you're completely wrong.
That's why
to validate what you're feeling.
Yeah, because they get
100%.
together, and then it's like when you see these things, like people like, how did Andrew Tate even have a platform? Because all these idiots followed the dude.
Yeah,
that's
100.
fine. Yeah,
Oh, there we go.
We just keep recording the audio.
You'll always find people who agree with you.
Yeah, that's it.
One way or another. So, and that's probably harmful for motor racing as far as having villains and stuff, because you feel less obliged to play the villain if you're going to cop it 24/7.
But I think they need good support systems. As long as everyone's got good support systems, and that also isn't just your family, friends, but the organisations that run it need to be supporting the drivers.
100%.
You know, whether it is speedway, supercars, this, that, and they help them, because that's what we saw when we watched that was back to the documentary we saw with Bubba Wallace. The head of NASCAR was supporting him and going to an extent. There was back and forth between the two of them. But there's someone to talk to. So you'd want everyone to have that person who's overseeing
100%.
it.
I'm not sure I'd like to see fighting in motor racing. I would like to see arguments. I would like to see people speaking their mind, and I'd like to see villains. But we can't do that unless, like you say, there's backing behind that. So, and you don't want to be like the WWE. You don't want to be just putting on a show that's not authentic.
That's it.
But let the authentic come through and let people have their say. Let the crowd have their say, but figure out how to leave it at that. Shut it down after that. So, I can ramble.
I know.
I'm good.
I'm impressed, by the way. There is so much content here that we can put out on the video.
Man, you're going to be editing this for weeks. I said to Scourgy, I was like, I'm going on Hooley's podcast. He goes, fuck, you'll do well on that. He goes, you just talk. I was like, yeah, I can do that.
So this is a game called the Fast Five.
Yep.
So if you do look on our Instagram, they're at the leaderboard at the moment. But by this time it comes out, it'll obviously change.
You'll be season 3.
You'll be season 3. Yeah. So it's a 5 questionnaire thing. Most of them this week they are all multi-choice. So it's basically Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but it's Fast 5.
Is it relative to motor racing?
It's all relevant to motor racing.
You're going to figure out how narrow-minded I am. I know Speedway. I know fuck all about fuck all.
I think you gave mostly. This is all Speedway questions.
It's all
this is a NASCAR, but
that's fine. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's all based. So the Fast 5 originally was based around like the driver's preferences or the personality's preferences of what you like. So it's still it's a questionnaire basically. If you get 3 right, Brooke, you pass basically, and if you don't, you get a shit prize. You still get a prize, but it depends on how much you get right and how much
spectrum,
you get.
the shit to the good.
Yeah. So you'll either get a really shit prize.
Shit it is. I'm going to be shit.
You can get a $2 shop prize, or you can get basically a half decent prize.
Cool. Let's go. I'm down.
All right, the first one is question number 1. When was the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series founded? Was it A, 1970? Was it B, 1973? Was it C, 1978? Or was it D, 1982? I can repeat the question if you need to.
Sammy Walsh would have been sick at this, I reckon.
He would have,
He was actually pretty good.
He was pretty decent,
78?
Yes, correct.
Yep.
Numbers, yes.
You're like, woohoo!
Wow.
Holy balls.
Yeah,
okay.
You're the first person in, I think, three guests at the moment who's got the first question right.
Thank God for that.
So you're off to a flying start.
Or it's all going to go downhill.
Okay, you might find this one a bit harder. Who won the World of Outlaws Rookie of the Year in the year 2020? Was it A, Carson Macedo, B, Ian Madsen, C, Wayne Johnson, or D, James McFadden?
Carson. I think James wasn't full-time till after that, wasn't he?
No, you'll be surprised by this answer. It was C, Wayne Johnson.
No.
Yes.
Carson must have been in before then.
Carson was the year before.
Shit.
Correct. That's why it was a tricky question.
You seen a video of Wayne punching on with Aaron Reitzel?
No.
Oh, I've got to send you so many fight videos.
I love that. By the way, the seller's bringing Aaron Reitzel over here is fucking awesome, by the way.
He's a weapon.
He's an entertaining character. All right, the next question is, what years in a row did Kerry Madsen win the Australian Sprint Car Championship? Was it A, 2010, 11 and 12, B, 2013, 14 and 15, or C, 2016, 17 and 18?
Oh.
So what years did he win?
I remember at Parramatta when he won one and they said don't change the number. In other words, he'd won 2 back-to-back. So Parramatta, while I was racing, was it 16, 17, 18?
Yes, it was. On fire.
Got 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3 so far. God. You're leaning towards it. This one will consolidate basically a good prize. So, how many NASCAR wins did Marcus Ambrose get when he competed in America? Was it A, 3, B, 4, or C, 6? How many wins did he get in America when he was competing in NASCAR?
Nationwide and Cup or just Cup?
All together.
Ah.
Yes.
Was it 3, 4, 6?
3, 4, or 6. That's the
4.
Wrong.
Shit. I knew it was 2 Cup wins, wasn't it?
It was 2 Cup wins, correct.
Yep.
It was 6.
Shit, yeah. The nationwide
4 nationwide, 2 Cup.
Damn.
Yeah.
All right,
I knew the Cup ones.
This is the decider.
This is the decider, and you were just talking about nationwide series.
Oh, no. I'm so going to get NASCAR wrong. I'm not a NASCAR buff.
Oh, it is about Kyle Busch, who's up actually on that wall. What year did Kyle Busch win the nationwide NASCAR series? So they had the bushwhackers. So basically they had to kick the Cup car guys out, the Cup car regulars out. So basically he changed the game back then, right? What year did he win the nationwide series? Was it A, 2005, B, 2012, or C, 2009?
You know I have absolutely zero clue.
Just throw a dart at the board.
05, 09...
No, 05, 12, or 09. Yeah, 05, 09, or 12.
I feel like it's 12, but 09 sounds more realistic.
What is your answer?
What's
12.
12? Oh, no.
It was 9, wasn't it?
I was like, shit, he's got it.
I was like, he's got to get this. He's got to get this.
That's all right. That's all right. I don't feel like a complete retard then.
All right, Dan, what have you got down there?
It's a Toyota head impact device. Don't throw it at me. It might break.
You can never use this.
Hang on, let me see. Oh, there we go.
Is it a warranty sheet for a Bell helmet?
Oh, you know what? Since you've been such a good sport.
No, you don't have to give me shit for nothing. We didn't grow up in this.
True,
we didn't grow up in this era.
Yeah.
We just got finished talking about you get what you deserve.
There you go. You get this. This will be good for the kids, though.
Mate, my kids will love that.
What is that?
I don't even know what it is, but
I don't even.
What are they? Are they so everyone knows?
Like little characters.
They little characters.
I didn't even realize we had this under the desk.
What's it called?
They're stretchy, super stretchy. Oh, you just.
It's been,
little stupid stretchy fight guys.
Oh, my kids will love that.
This has been under the desk since season 1.
That takes me back to the old days when you were a kid.
Yeah,
it's got you minis, so your kids will love this. You can squish them and fight them. We're talking about fighting.
Yeah, there you go. That was like almost a theme of this. Ooh.
This is the early days of training for the kids.
That was almost a theme of our talk today, fighting and motor racing. Yeah, that's going to be, honestly, my kids will actually like that. Yeah. Probably the best present you could have given me.
Yeah. Well, Alex, I'm really appreciate you coming on the podcast. Before we go, though, I do sometimes end up a podcast on a topic.
Yep.
And obviously you couldn't make the classic, and you made it vocal on Facebook that you had to basically give away your accommodation and stuff like that. But your plan next year is obviously to get more racing.
Yeah, everything.
In around Australia or basically New South Wales?
We like Toowoomba in
okay.
Queensland, so I would aim next year, and considering the last 3 years I've done sweet bugger all, so I would love to do all of Eastern Creek.
Yep.
Anything that doesn't clash at Eastern Creek with Toowoomba, do everything at Toowoomba that I can. Do the classic week at Victoria, which is Avalon on Wednesday, Mount Gambier Thursday, and Warrnambool Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that should see about, I think it's usually about 20 to 25 nights at Eastern Creek.
Yep.
I'd love to do 2 or 3 nights at Toowoomba, so it's at about 28 best case scenario, and about 4 nights at the classic. So I'd love to do between 30 and 35 meetings next year.
Yep.
And the year after, let's go to America.
Sounds good. Before we go, Brooke, you got any questions for Alex? You can end this one if you want.
I don't know. I think we've covered everything tonight.
So much. Even parenting, bloody.
I know.
Kids growing up.
This will be one of the first episodes.
We've got to know Alex really well tonight.
100%.
Yeah.
Like I said at the start, I can talk shit with the best of them.
Yeah. Well, cheers, Alex, for coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Been a lot of fun.
Thank you.